Shabbat shalom, Mr. Carr. We'll start in a few minutes. I'll stay up here with you for the beginning. And then you probably can do a lot of songs.
I have no songs for them. I said we just grab a couple.
I don't really need to put on some stuff. And all we want to do.
This one stuff else. I'm trying to install now. I know a couple of them went to Newark.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. No. That's Steve. I don't. Yeah, they meet every other week.
I was doing all this part of it.
I don't know. Yes, he was part of it.
I think makes sense. I think it's both for the newer.
Yeah, he does, yeah. Yeah, I used to go with one of the Lancaster too. The little one in Lancaster. Were they there at the property when they're coming?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They didn't work out. I was supposed to go with the the same team.
No. Hey, my brother, Aki.
Hey, shalom. How are you?
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. And you?
Good, man. Is your wife awake or is she asleep?
She's awake.
Oh, but send our love. Hey, Shabbat shalom. How you doing?
I am well.
It's good to see you. How's your leg?
I'm good.
We've been praying for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. I injured it, broke it. It's good to see you, Paul's. Paul
See you too.
Turn the sound off. I can barely hear you. How's it going there? Oh, young man.
My
I'm better one.
grandson.
Oh, you've been. That's great. Your future Talmudic. How you doing, young man?
Good.
Good. That's good. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. It's nice to meet you. That's
Oh,
good.
yeah. Thank you.
We're about to get started. All right.
Yes.
Who's got a shofar? We have two up here. One's Matthew's. Someone can grab the other one if you want.
Everybody want water?
What a gentleman. You should learn from him. Really? You need Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you wanna start? Let's go far. Down on the end of me here.
I'm not gonna, I'm having trouble now. All right, you ready? Praise Yah. Hallelujah. Praise the Most High. Well, welcome, everyone. Well, considering we didn't even know if we're gonna have service this week because so many people were out of town, we have way more people than we planned this year. But it's good to see everyone. You wanna do the announcements?
Maybe a while.
Announcements might take a little longer than normal. You're correct. David, could you do me a favor? The top of my bag, there's a short pocket like this big. My glasses are in there. I'm about to hit buttons and I don't want to shut stuff off. It could be bad.
I can't use my phone when I use it.
So I'm on the reading level yet. That's what I got, but it's the short. Oh, there they are. Thank you. I appreciate it, bro.
All right, welcome.
Good job.
Welcome.
He's working on his manners.
Right. Because obviously I have one. You just put.
Oh, now I can see you, brother.
Yes, I am very happy to see you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
How can I see the audience there?
All right,
You want to see everyone? Hold on. I'm going to show.
The audience of your congregation.
Yeah, well, some of them are here today. There's my mother.
hello.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Bye, shalom, brother.
She's in Kenya.
Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom. Okay, that's good. That's great.
Oh, what did I do? All right, there, we fixed it. All right. Let me see, no, that's not the right one. Paul, yes, it's Paul. Paul, how do you say your last name? Is it Neobutu?
Bornyabuto.
Neobuto. All right.
Yes.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for correcting that. I appreciate that. All right, go ahead, Mo. We're good.
So see, I'm gonna want to get to John 1.
Sometime.
I'm gonna pull that up sometime. All right. So welcome to the Tikvah. Tithes and offerings here, or you can do a Cash App, PayPal. It's a reminder that, the money for Sukkot is due soon.
We're trying to
You're gonna
shoot
have to
for
ask him.
Yom Teruah, so,
Yom Teruah is like a week and a half.
yes, we're like a week and a half away, so I mean, within 2 weeks is probably fine. We are doing it on, we're gonna talk about that in a minute. We are not doing it on Sunday. That is the 28th day for us. But we consider doing it with the newer group. There was something, I just put it in my calendar, that's not gonna work. Alrighty, so. We'll get to that in a minute. We're saving that for last, because it may take a little bit to go through.
Okay, for those keeping track of the actual timing, Yah's timing, it is the 20th of the 6th month. Which means we're almost into the 7th month. Excited.
And again, this is the calendar, the Sanhedrin actually have already said it's correct, they just have not approved it yet. And that's the only reason Israel's not using this calendar, just so we know. Said it has to be approved by the Sanhedrin first. That's the only reason, they don't deny what we're doing, it's not.
We're currently still in high heat.
Yeah.
So if it's hot, that's why. But we go into sowing season. Right?
First day of Sukkot, first
Right
day
after
before
Yom-
Sukkot.
Yeah, right after Yom Kippur, just before Sukkot. Going right into sowing season.
So let the fire of Yah burn some stuff out of your life.
Thursdays, we're still doing warring in the spirit. I think Trina was sick this past week. Right? Prayer list is here. Just a reminder. September 25th, which would be next first day, next Sunday. You are at Bishop
Yeah.
House.
That's correct. For anyone that's been going to that stuff, so that is it, that on the Jewish calendar, that is the Feast of Trumpets, correct? So we are gonna be doing something with trumpets, and we will be talking about trumpets at Bishop Howard's. So I guess we are doing it then anyways. We just have a 4-day event instead of a 2 to 3 day event, that's all.
Is that Sunday during the regular?
Yeah, 1 o'clock. He is not aware of what we're gonna do. He does not ask me. He just kind of tells me and turns me loose. So I can tell you, we're gonna be talking about Yom Teruah. So if there's something you guys want to do on that day, specifically, we already have a service at 1 o'clock. So
Funny.
Okay, Sukkot is scheduled for the 11th to the 19th of October.
18th,
So it's less than a
Right.
month.
11th through the 18th?
19th. I'm trying to count days. Yeah, so it should be the 18th. No, we're starting the evening and the 11th.
Yeah, the evening of the 11th and then it goes to-
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine.
All right, so let's get into the next new moon is scheduled for around the 27th or 28th, and that is Yom Teruah.
All right. Is that the last of them? Well, that was quick.
Unless you want to talk about Yom Kippur,
No, we can go with that after.
because Yom Kippur is tentatively the 7th. And that all depends on the new.
We're about to go over it right now.
Shalom.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, my dear wife.
Doing?
Yes, how's your retreat?
I have to go with my outfit.
New clothes.
I'm wearing my outfit. I'm wearing my outfit, just so you know. Keep out of it. One underneath it.
See if you guys can see this. I'm trying to pull it up. Our schedule for the week for Yom Teruah.
Are you plugged in for the court?
Oh, that's what's all. Thank you. That's what happens when you have someone perfect in the room.
Not everybody.
In Matthew's defense, he didn't treat me like I was less because I didn't. Yeah, you can ignore half my other stuff, but we're gonna deal with the 25th, 26th, and 7th. And technically the 28th. Okay, so on our schedule, the first new moon watch actually starts on Monday. All right. You want it bigger? I can make it bigger. One day at a time?
Still pretty, I mean, I can't see it and I don't. The font's really not big.
It's really small.
There we go.
That works.
All right, so. Again, that's why we have the calendar up. We got a big one there. If you don't know, so you know what days we're celebrating, when we're celebrating on, you can plan in advance, you can flip through there, you can do any of that stuff. And if that doesn't work, it's on the website with dates. These are estimated dates because we're going with the sighted new moon. Okay, which is the crescent on the right-hand side. That's how we're doing it. We're not doing conjunction. All right. So that's where we're getting our dates from. I'm just reminding everyone why and how. And part of that is because when we started doing this, we knew the Sanhedrin didn't agree to do it yet because of, I'm not getting into why they haven't done that yet. But we have been working with people, and specifically with Nehemiah Gordon, we did Michael Rood in the land to reestablish the biblical calendar. And that's why we agreed to get with those guys to reestablish the biblical calendar in the land, because they're still using the calendar from diaspora. Does everyone understand at least, whether you agree or not? Right. What? No.
I don't agree with that.
I don't agree. That's wrong.
That'd be like saying Hebrews all agree with each other too. I've never seen that happen. That's pretty accurate. Pretty accurate. We were discussing a subject this morning and there was multiple opinions around. I mean, it's that is normal. So it's so how we address that around here is it's because of my position. I have to establish the halakha for the place, and so I have, but we have a lot of liberty, and it's not Nicolaitan, so no one has to believe anything that comes out of my mouth technically within reason. Right? If you think it's okay to be a child molester, I will throw you out.
Yeah.
You know, those kind of things will get you tossed. If you think it's okay to walk in here with 6 wives, that won't go over well for you. If you're visiting,
Bring
and
one at a time.
just bring one at a time, not so you don't want to cause confusion. All right, so here's how we're celebrating so far. All right, we'll be at Bishop Howard's on the first day of the week from 1 to 3. And that 3 is a pretty solid because he does not have a car. So he normally has to take the coda. And so at 3, he's got to be out of there. So. All right. Anyone that wants to come for a mid-rosh at Bishop Howard's for trumpets, maybe I'll talk to him about bringing some food or something. What do you think?
We can start at noon.
Start at 1.
A mid rush if it were 1.
You don't know if you get in early.
He normally comes in, we might sing a little bit, and then we go right into the structure. Now with them, because they don't know a lot of things compared to what we know, we tend to do a teaching at least for the basics, which I think is a good way to go anyways. And so prepare your Yom Teruah questions that cause the Midrash to go forth. Please participate. Don't get all shy because we have a bunch of people we don't know in there. I will need you guys if we opened up a Midrash. I'll need you back.
I would like to be in attendance. I just can't be sure I can do it at this moment, but
Right.
I would like to be in attendance, but if I were to go, I would certainly think it would be a blessing to have a midrash, and then afterwards, I'd participate in it.
Yeah, because if we go to Midrash, which is the plan at this point, that's what I've been seeing. We'll get into Midrash after a short teaching on Yom Teruah, the basics, which they've heard before, so it should just be a reminder. You know how it is, guys. You hear it takes a couple times before it actually starts to click sometimes. So, and then open up the floor into discussion so we can go. He does really appreciate when you guys come and the difference that it makes in the discussion, you know, type of stuff. So. It is a Christian group that has just renounced paganism. I've been over there for what? How long? A year?
Yeah.
At least 8 months or something. And I've known him for like 8 years. So I've been preaching against paganism to him for like 8 years, and they finally are just now actually going to step into it. So they were talking about coming to Sukkot for the first time ever. No one, of course, because they're not prepared like we are, no one could get the time off from work. So they're not coming for Sukkot, which is a disappointment. But the fact that they're trying, we're going to Myrtle Beach. We got a place.
You're going to Israel.
No, I leave that for the migrants to go. That's funny. That's funny. So that's what we're gonna do. We'll be there, and I'll talk to him about whether we can do food or something, because it's a feast, right? And I know their calendar will be slightly different than what we use here, But there are people in here with slightly different calendars too, so I don't think it should matter that much. We don't ever debate such things. We discuss them, but
We meet together and argue about it. a little bit.
I don't even think we've ever argued about such things. I just, people have their beliefs. They're pretty, when it comes to calendar issues, for some reason, they can be really
Yeah.
they can get really heated.
There's a lot of detail on it. Okay.
I don't
Just
understand.
on the day of the week.
I've been doing it for a long time, so I've seen so many different arguments, but sometimes they get people a little much, and I think it matters more that we're going to celebrate the feast with him than it does if it's on the exact day or not. That's all. Especially where they're at, so that's, great job. All right,
I'll tell you my funniest story about Israel. I have a girlfriend who takes people, Americans who pretty much on tours. And there were these two men in Tel Aviv. They were just fighting. I mean, they looked like they were gonna tear each other apart and they were just, arms were swaying and, they looked like they were gonna kill each other. And the Americans were like, oh, God, they were of course speaking Hebrew. And the Americans were like, well, what in the heck, or what are they saying? My God, they look like they're gonna kill each other. And she said, they're just talking about the movie they saw last night.
that's hilarious.
It's just the way they are.
David's story of when he thought how beautiful Hebrew was, and then he realized what the people were saying. It just cracks me up every time he tells that story. He's like, oh my God.
People have more contact and go
Rockets and
yes.
that died was somebody that I don't know, heart attack, but they don't know if he because of the rocket.
Or what, yeah,
Wasn't it that hard?
supernatural protection.
That's a rocket. No, it's a missile. That's a rocket.
More related.
Your halakha is wrong because you died. No. Here's our schedule for Monday. I'm saying the term Monday because, so you guys know. Right? Shalishi. Right. Everyone should have an email that's on this list. Try to make it bigger. These are individual meetings. If you didn't get an email, that means you weren't invited. If you really want to be invited, you can tell me. But I don't like wasting people's time, right? David doesn't want the whole world being in our conversation with Valiant Landworks because we won't get anything accomplished because everyone will have 2 cents about something they know nothing about.
Right.
We've had those problems in the past on New Moon. That's why we separated it. These are all Zoom calls. All right. So then that way you don't even have to leave your house that day. And that is the first possible day for Yom Teruah. So if you are keeping Shabbat on Yom Teruah on that day, please inform me if we need to move the day. I will move it. I'll try to put it on a different day.
What's the actual date for this?
That's Monday, the
Is this the 11th?
20, what's the 26th, I think.
Oh, this month.
26.
Yes, that's Monday, the 26th. David, you should have an email for the Valiant Landworks.
I'm sure it is.
You might have another one in there I'm unaware of. Well, this is,
No. I'm swallowing cough drops like they're going on style.
so I don't want to get too much into this stuff. There's ministry meetings on here and there are business meetings, right? So I don't want to get too much into it. This time of year, our business meetings and our new moon meetings are probably the most serious of the entire year. Because so if sowing season is about to begin, this is the meeting where we're discussing what kind of seed we're going to sow during sowing season. So if you want to be part of that decision, you need to be there. If you're not there, it's not going to happen. Right? The next meeting is when we actually launch. You two back there cutting up. David, what are you doing?
Nothing that.
The next new moon after Sukkot is when we launch everything. And I'm saying this because when I get to the next day, you guys, I'm gonna explain something and you guys are gonna wanna know. Any questions about these meetings?
I don't know if I'll be able to make it. Not quite sure yet what are we doing for this.
Right, so,
We'll meet next week before, right? So next Shabbat,
yeah,
have a better idea.
and I think the only one you're on here with is the Two Sticks one, right? So it's a ministry meeting, so we're not gonna be breaking, Shabbat or anything, so. And it's 7, so it depends on when you're doing it, but, for which one? All of them? You don't want to be on them all.
No,
Well,
but
not all of
there's, these are Zoom calls and they're 7 hours. but
They are going to be,
Oh, I understand.
These are meetings.
these are, so we take care of business on New Moon as well.
Okay.
On Yom Teruah, it's normally business, prayer and stuff first and then business, but because Yom Teruah is a Shabbat,
Yeah.
we flipped it so we could have the business meetings first, so we could actually do it without breaking Shabbat.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of them are just discussing things that we're doing in ministry, so they wouldn't technically break Shabbat anyways, but we still we prefer not to do those things on Shabbat anyways. Now, if there's a subject that you're interested in,
Yeah.
specifically, let me know and I'll add you to it, okay? And you can check it out.
My email is walkalljerusalem@gmail.com.
And put it in my phone.
Tell everybody, then everybody's gonna have your email.
Let's email it.
I don't got nothing to do.
Thank you, Cal. Gmail feels the same. Longer.
Yeah.
I'm longer than Google.
Know everything about everybody.
Okay, what is it?
walkalljerusalem@gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
I had an Airbnb, and so for
Okay.
6 years, and so it was really one for people to remember. And
So this is on the 27th, and this is gonna be our main new moon meeting. It has a Zoom link on there, but we will probably not be having a Zoom that day, because I know what we're about to discuss. And I'm gonna show you guys a little bit about what we're gonna discuss on that new moon. And then the next day, if people want to come back and break bread and stuff on the Shabbat, that's what we'll do. But we'll discuss it that night, depending on how long the couple days have been. After 3 days, if people want to spend the day at home, that's fine too. It doesn't take long. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit about what we're going to go over that night to give you an idea. I'm going to stop sharing this. David, I feel like you're on the verge.
You can do it. Very well said. Come on,
Here's I just want to get it so you guys are getting the preview. I'm trying to get them. Trina, I don't even know if you've seen this, so when you yeah, she's online. Sounds like a dog toy. All right. This is what we're going over to give you an idea. And we're not going to go over it now because it's Shabbat, but I still want to at least let you guys know so you can be prepared. Preparing to live in the community on the land. Positions. And some things are already on here. I think
I want to be kind of nice.
denied.
Right.
David, I just wanted to let you know, I accepted your position and you're fired all in the same day.
Thank you very.
So you can say you held it for at least 5 seconds. The same place you pick up your firing papers.
Well, maybe it doesn't have a preposition for the name, the Wilderness Health Organization. We can call it the WHO.
All right, that's one thing.
Oh, that's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff.
That's good, though. I mean, it's like- Yep.
All right, one more. And then we're gonna go over this as well. Oh, I'm really excited about this, to be honest. This is for Kavod Impact Center here as well. We are launching multiple businesses. And we're gonna be offering positions with pay. All right, so even if let's say we only can offer so many. And there's you brought that on purpose, didn't you?
But it's also a multiple.
Is it your,
No.
that's what I thought it was.
It's a new one. We're gonna test it.
No, so.
You bought them.
No, I bought four.
Is that the gentleman thing that you were talking about? He needs to stop zapping you with the.
No, she hasn't gotten that.
So she's not that rebellious, is that what you said? She's only partially?
Clean it out. Labor.
I had one, but I gave it to a woman who actually died because she wore her mask 24/7.
Oh.
She had no COVID, she had no shots, and she wore her mask. She was a friend of mine. She lived right up above. Her name was Shoshana, and she was a very religious woman, and she called me in the morning and asked me for herbs and I make my own, tinctures, with vodka and all the garlics and then so on and so on.
No, that's vodka and cranberry juice.
No.
Not at nuts.
David, you've been drinking medicine this whole time.
I know, and I feel, ow, healthy.
Not want shots, and she literally, she was on her her balcony, and all the time wearing the mask, she was afraid.
Spirit of fear is something else.
And she died because she had no white blood counts in her body
Because of the mask.
because of the mask.
That's terrible. All right, I'm gonna move on. So yes, we're gonna have a lot of positions open. All right, and what that is, and if someone, we're not getting into that today, but we're gonna go into detail. And look, I'm not done with either one of these lists yet. This is the rough draft, quick thrown together.
Can you throw the other one up there? Please? The first one that you had.
Sure. This one?
Oops. I'm sorry. Come here. Everyone, come here. Are you okay? Ow. That's like. What was that thing?
So, David,
Yeah,
what do you want to see?
I just wanted to see where I can fit in.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna go through it in detail.
We're gonna get a copy.
I can.
He's. Oh, yeah.
So some of these positions, it's already been,
Yeah, ice cream candy and.
Sure.
That is already taken.
Matthew will be handing the bread mill. We'll be making sourdough every day. Right? Look, guys, it's 300 acres. It's a full complex. Now, the rock keeps nudging me and I keep on fighting it. I don't know why. So, for those of you that think this is a long way off, you can say yes. But I want to tell you how quick it can happen. All right? My mom knows where I'm going. So I got a phone call yesterday for 10% of profits, someone offered to give me $500 million to build everything. It's $500 million. I'm-
Penciling our salary?
Yes, I am, brother. They're also considering giving money for Kavod. Because they like both of the major things that we're doing. They want royalties, and I don't know, royalty from the business side, obviously not the community side of things, right? But they actually want to do it because they believe in the ministry side of things more. It's up to 500 million. The person that has a guaranteed 25 million already said that worst case scenario, even if I didn't get approved for everything, business plan in time, they would still give me part of that. So things are about to go right. How many know I've been saying there's gonna be a shift? For like, how many months, Matthew? 4? 2 months? Okay, 2 months.
I would just take a blessing, not a pay, but I have a beautiful home that I can sleep personally 7 people.
Well, that's nice.
And, also, the person I live, my landlord and his wife, there are 4 or 5 other apartments and, 3 of them are empty and they're beautiful. I mean, brand new. And so, there's a place to stay and, they're believers.
Mhm.
He was brought up Orthodox.
We said this all along, and we're not building these things so that we can celebrate the feast here. Some feast maybe, but
You're not building this for what?
to celebrate Sukkot here. We get money like that. We're going to Israel forever for the main 3 feasts. I think it's pretty clear in scripture. I don't.
Yeah.
Right. And so if that kind of money's flying around, I'm not saying we shouldn't all contribute and everything else. I mean, 500 million goes a long way. So I'm not, I have to justify what I do when people give that kind of money. They want some kind of accountability. So it's not turning into a free for all,
Sure.
which rightfully so, but there's no way we're not going to Israel if we have that kind of money. There's no way. We keep the commandment. We haven't been keeping the commandment because for some reason or not, we haven't been able to. That doesn't mean we don't desire to, and so there is a difference.
I've been in Israel for peace, and I think you can, you should, but really, I think without the temple, it's not quite a command. Still think it's good to do it if you can. Temple isn't there, so it's not.
Well said.
It will be.
We're at this point, you're saying you're not bound to do it.
Yeah.
I hear you. But most of us have a desire to do it, so we're gonna do it. All right, any questions? So when I'm asking for prayer lately, I'm dealing with some serious, please keep me in prayer. I can't explain every conversation I go through when I'm having these conversations. There's just a lot of weight on them. I gotta make decisions and sometimes I don't have a lot of time to make the decision. Yep. They tell me to get that kind of money and look, the door is already closed on that deal. I met her a couple of days ago. I met the lady that kind of runs that branch a couple of days ago. And so she is making room for me, but I have to have her the paperwork by Monday. So that's what I'm gonna be doing all day tomorrow. So if you don't hear from me, you know why.
Yeah, we the road along. But I want to ask if I could, what type of strings are there other than the 10%?
Royalty. It's just royalty.
Just
That's all I know so far. I haven't gone through the paperwork,
okay,
brother.
okay.
After you get the paperwork, and let's say we get approved.
Yeah.
How soon would that be?
January. First disbursement maybe as early as December. But they guarantee by January, but it could be as late as or early as December. They're pushing it because Biden just did an executive order they don't agree with. And they think it's gonna cause stuff to collapse, so they're trying to transfer their money into real stuff.
Smart.
And someone with a lot of money, and they don't want to have their stuff in fiat, so they're setting up something that we can have a separate system outside of the system.
Into tangible.
Yes, and owning in land is a tangible, into a business is a tangible, right? The other thing they're doing is which we're allowed to take some of that money and invest in some of the other stuff. The other stuff is they own a gold mine. I mean, yeah, in Uganda. So I will be deleting all this stuff from our online before I post it, right? But so if I'm saying all this stuff too, because if you guys ever want to invest in something, there's going to be a window really soon. I don't want to get into too much, but I don't feel right if I don't share it with my brother. I guess that you guys have heard me say this a lot of times. I believe I'm from Benjamin. Benjamin is like a ravenous wolf, but divides this in the end. They divide the spoil with their brethren. So I get in these meetings. I get a little wolfish sometimes. I'll be the first one to admit it, because I'm thinking about everyone in here when I'm in there. I'm not trying to think about myself, including Cam.
No, I was just
Oh.
telling for that on the way
Oh,
about.
I live in,
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh,
So if I come visit you, I get to be,
You're in your land. You'll be right in your land, overlooking the Dead Sea.
It's
and
beautiful.
It's the view on my balcony is, I mean, I could sleep, I could probably sleep like about 4 or 5 people out there too. And so, I mean, God has just gifted me.
Yeah.
I mean, I had one day to move out and I made a phone call and they were believers and I looked at the house and I was like, they wanted to give me a bigger apartment, 1 floor down for the same price. And, I said, no, I prefer being at the top and having the,
the
you know,
view.
it wasn't much bigger, but it was bigger. I mean, kitchen was, you know, a big kitchen, but I could probably have a Shabbat, table for probably, you know, like what,
20, 25 people.
30, 40
30.
people, yeah,
Really
yeah.
nice.
So, and you know, the kitchen is nicely set up and 2 bathrooms, you know.
Look forward to seeing it next Passover.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
mean, I mean, my wife been talking, we're planning on coming. So,
Wow.
appreciate it.
Hard.
I'm so excited about it, to be honest.
The Father is faithful. He's taking care of all his children and preparing the way.
Yeah, the other thing is I got the same group of people. There are a group of guys, Messianics, that they live in America and Tennessee, and they go back and forth to Israel all the time. They do conferences over there. And they're trying to get me in the door to do some of those conferences. So there's a lot of stuff that's transitioning, guys. That's all I'm trying to say.
Tennessee, I've had some friends,
A lot of liberty.
station and moved to Tennessee, so.
So is even, what's his face, the political guy, Ben Shapiro. His whole group moved there too. In
Oh, really?
California. Yeah, Shapiro's in
Where was
Tennessee.
he at? Mike, moved there. I think he was in California.
He was in California.
But he does also have-
There's a hot tub manufacturer that just moved there too from Florida. There's a lot of liberty on the law books compared to most of the United States. That's why people are living there. Tax wise, they don't pay, the taxes are off just sales tax, isn't it? It's all on the sales tax. So they don't pay state taxes outside of the sales tax.
I just wanted to let a lot of people are gonna be coming to Ohio.
Mhm.
Well,
They are.
Rents are on through the roof. Even in the border, you read that.
No,
Yeah,
they said
Columbus
that they're gonna
prison
start
time.
building more homes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So-
people are coming.
People are moving. There's a ton of people moving. It's about to, no, it's about to be number 1, brother. Silicon Valley is leaving Silicon Valley and coming here.
That's what happened.
Ben tells us.
Exactly what's happening.
Have you ever seen Ready Player One? It's based in Columbus, Ohio. There's a reason. All right. Okay, we're gonna go there. So the prophecy over Ohio is that the last great revival will actually start here. That's what's prophesied over this place. It's the heart of it all. It's shaped like a shield. The flag is unique from any other flag in the world. All right. I can explain all this, so if you want to interrupt me, I will explain more. But when you get the prophetic visions over Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Columbus are two Leviathan and a chameleon. The chameleon represents Columbus because every part of Columbus is designed after some other place. Every part, it's a chameleon. If they start imitating the Mashiach, revival will break forth. It's inevitable. I mean, you start imitating Yeshua, that's what happens.
Well, what was the thing?
Leviathan. I mean, you live there. Are you shocked? So some of these guys, I'm not trying to name drop, but I don't know how else to do it. So if you think of major prophetic movements in America, all these guys have prophesied the same thing over. Some of those people have been to this congregation. I don't really advertise that when they walk in the door because I don't want people hounding them and, you know. They start asking for, they will rebuke them for that.
Right.
So all the stuff we're doing at Goshen has been prophesied by the same people. They had not put a face to it. When they came here, they said that we're supposed to do it. I'm not trying to, but I'm just trying to make sure you guys know what you're a part of. Right there, that's what they're prophesying. And it's about the launch, and it's about the launch from here. Right. Yes, that puts a lot of weight on us as a group.
But if we do it right.
But when you realize all it is to imitate the king, there's not really any extra weight, then that shouldn't be there already. Whether someone thinks highly of you or not highly of you should not change the way you serve Yehovah. You should give him your best, no matter what. So it's not about me, it's not about David, it's about all of us. It's about what he wants to do. We're just trying to be obedient to the vision, right? And so I just want to.
What do I think of when we say $500 million?
I don't know what to think personally.
I'm thinking of equipment that we need for the property. All the things that I've been sending you.
Hey,
We need that.
Feel free to send me a list with prices, brother. I'm serious. Feel free to send me a list.
Yeah, no, I'm talking the stuff to clean up the trails.
The-
and levels.
The moving dirt,
Oh.
moving trees, the sawmill stuff, even though we already got one, but yeah, it's gonna need more than just that if we're doing that much work. Right? I know this is a lot, but on New Moon, on Yom Kippur, we're gonna dive in and get into some details, specifically for every individual that shows up. Anyone that wants to get involved, no one's, twist anyone's arm to do anything. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Right? But it will be an opportunity. We're getting to that place where we have to start putting people in place, guys.
What was the date of that? What was the what?
Tuesday, 7 o'clock.
7.
Yes. Tuesday, 7 o'clock, we'll be here. Bring it. We're gonna do potluck too, since we're gonna be celebrating Yom Teruah
This coming Tuesday?
A week from Tuesday.
a week from Tuesday.
Oh, next Tuesday.
Yes. So we'll go over this probably again next week one time, just real quick I may not get into all the details I got into today, so I'm just trying to keep everyone in the loop of what's going on. I've been working on some of this stuff for a while. I'm saying it now because people are making promises now that no matter what, we're getting something. So that's why I'm bringing it up. We are already starting working, and I already started to deal to buy more property down in MacArthur. It's happening. People are moving down there on their own.
What about the guys with the stuff moving on? Building?
No. No, they're waiting on us to give them money. Which is coming. We're gonna have 2 weeks out. I'm sure we will.
Send gold bars. Send gold. We don't even have that. Gold.
That, we are probably 6 months out from being able to do that stuff.
But to have a contact in Israel.
So to give you an idea, what I think about when you say that, all right, besides people coming to visit or something.
I mean, I was just, I just met with, Ariel, Cohen Oliver just a few days ago. Oh, Fred King. He is a, Haredi. He has many, rabbis, prominent rabbis, come to him in the middle of the night and they're throwing money at him because it sounds really awkward, but he speaks very many languages, he's brilliant, he's into basically, Kabbalah, and he's, very brilliant in Kabbalah. And some people think Kabbalah is bad, but, his is, basically, he can show you Yeshua in all of the messianic, in the Torah, in the Tanakh. And he is.
I've seen that done with Kabbalah before,
Yeah, and.
but they didn't do, their Kabbalah was limited from other forms.
Yeah, it's a mystical, that kind of stuff. He's
Right.
very.
It's parts of Kabbalah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's basic. He can find you Yeshua. I met him in Washington DC and I went and saw him because he was from Israel. Well, anyways, he is actually going to have a televised, second trial for Yeshua. Because, how they did it was totally in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
and, I mean,
went
it
against
was
Torah.
It was not a proper, anyways, he's a very well respected and he lives like nursery. And, but anyways, I have connections.
So I'm gonna tell you now, because like some of the products in Israel, because I have some connects over there, just so you know, business wise. But I don't have anyone to kind of fill in the gaps sometimes. And so that's where I would probably, that's the first thing I'd probably do, just so you know, is when we open the store, which we will do, I'll probably open it with products. I want to bring products from Israel.
Oh, yeah.
And so have someone to be able to just boots on the ground, just be able to kind of like send money to, and they can grab what they need to and then send it would be probably huge.
Yeah, I mean, and then I know, people from years that, like, if you're talking Judaic, things,
Mhm.
I can get them for, very, very good, like the taliks, and other things,
Yeah.
whatever anybody needs, and I get it, nothing practically, so.
Yeah, I figured you probably get, my contacts are probably, I know business wise, I know enough to know that my contacts are probably not the greatest contacts.
So I know a lot of, vendors and.
Yeah.
And so a few that are, I'm close to, and so, yeah, I mean, I actually, I just got an email from a woman who owns a shop and I clean her shop and she said, she needs me to clean it. Haven't broken anything yet. I'm so glad. I've worked for her for many years,
That's good.
And so I just asked for her and I actually go just to hang out with her because she's been in the shop for 40 years and she's here to Miss Rod happening anyways.
That's fantastic. Do we want any music? I know we normally do, but at least one, next one. We'll go live with the song from Israel. It's all we'll do. You guys okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know some of us may have heard this earlier today, but might be a little addicted to the song.
I know him.
Oh, Bill Cloud?
No, Aaron, Lipton.
Yeah, I was checking him out this morning. That's why it's up there.
Yeah,
He's doing that Joshua's altar thing.
he discovered, yeah, I know him. I spent the night over at his parents' house.
Oh.
Avi and Rachel Lipton.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Brilliant. He's brilliant. You can tell by this thing. So I try to share that stuff sometimes, and I'm doing my research now, but already I know he's really on it. With the guy, I forget the guy he used to work with, basically the archaeologist, because he's not really an archaeologist. License wise, but
He wasn't a believer, but he became, before he passed.
Oh, the leader. Oh, yeah, because when you start finding this stuff, you realize there's an agenda.
Yeah.
And he came out of it. Yeah, he was talking about that when I was listening to it.
Uh-huh.
All right, you guys ready?
Just one?
You want another one? No,
It's up to you. The one actually is sufficient.
I thought it was.
Yeah, I just wanna,
Before you get going, Mom, give me 1 second.
the word that I,
Hold on. Give me 1 second, Mom.
Sure.
Yeah. For those that don't know, next week, Paul is gonna be leading the Midrash. And, we're gonna be discussing the glory cloud. We will be playing footage of literally the glory cloud manifesting and discussing. And if you've never seen the glory cloud manifest, it'll definitely be worth a conversation. It should be a very interesting Midrash. I just want to make sure everyone knows. How many people have actually seen the glory cloud manifest in here? I know I have. The mom has. So it's not on YouTube. My friend posted it on his Facebook page. I've been in it, but I've never recorded it because I'm all caught up with I've not really paying attention to that stuff, but he came into his congregation And it was just hovering across the whole entire conversation, so even though they weren't in the presenter. He had been praying for a cleansing, so that's probably why he was in there praying, yeah, spiritually. But, so I actually can show the video about it. So, and then we'll,
You can send it to me?
it's on my Facebook page, actually. I
Oh,
posted it
okay.
live, and I'm gonna have to scroll down a little bit, but
Oh.
it's on there. Okay. Go ahead, Mom.
The transition that we just went through, you could see it and feel it occur. In other words, we were doing the announcements, we were talking about all the activities that are going on, and Steve was talking about all the things that have been going on with him and stuff. And those were all great, but then we went into the song and you could feel the glory of God coming immediately with that. It's the transition. And that's why when I said that we're going to do any more, because that one song to me was the perfect transition to what we're going to look at today. And it was the transition of going from just talking to literally we're in his word now, listening to what he has to say. So that's where we're going today, is looking at John 1-3. It's actually part of the Torah reading for the New Testament. And got a lot of Old Testament references to it. I did bring my, I don't bring my Bible very often. I normally just have my Kindle, but this one has the amplified version in it with a lot of references. And I want to go through John 1 in particular, but in the amplified version, it just reads it with a different depth that I thought was very good. And I just felt we needed to look at that too. So who would like to open us with prayer? Matthew, you want to do that?
Yeah, just thank you for Shabbat given us. Thank you for everyone here. Pray that you, I think it's Sandy as she's sharing, and just keep her words and just be receptive. And I just think for the time we get to spend together in the word.
I apologize for my cough. It's what's left of, I didn't come last week because it was really, really bad last week, even though I wasn't contagious anymore, I'm sure, but I still have that cough in my chest that won't quite go away. But so I have lozenges in my pocket and water to drink, Kleenex to grab if I need it, so.
Probably from the draft that you're receiving from the new door.
From the new what?
Door.
That draft?
The draft. That random info.
No, it's probably from the fact that my daughter works the public school system and she brought something home to me.
Oh, my.
She works in the
I
health.
think-
Yeah, she
I
works,
thought you did the healthcare.
not anymore. She quit that and she now works at the public school system, but she works in the healthcare at the public school system. So all the kids come in to see
Easier
her
to pass
that are
along.
sick.
Thanks, Athena.
Yeah, that's probably what that was. All right, who would like to read?
I would better have the amplified version that you're talking about.
You do?
I do not, I'm sorry.
Well, I kind of want to read both.
We never have the same thing.
Well,
Yeah, I
can
kind
read
of want to
that.
read both.
I can read that up on the screen.
Yeah, go ahead and read. I was trying to think, let's read 1-7, and then I'll read you the amplified after that, but just to get adjusted to
What
that.
it says on the screen, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John. The same came for a witness to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe.
All right. I think John, first chapter of John, to me is one of the most amazing chapters in the New Testament. It does a beautiful summary of Yeshua. It just is this beautiful summary. If you look at the other gospels, at least two of them anyway, they all stress his birth, but this one, John does it different. He stresses his God. He stresses who he is, not his birth, but who he is. And that's you see that literally in John 1-7. I do want to read you the Amplified, very similar, but it has a lot of little extra things that they like to put in there. And it says, in the beginning, before all time, was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God himself. He was present originally with God. All things were made and came into existence through him, and without him was not even one thing made that has come into being. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines on in the darkness, for the darkness has never overpowered it, put it out, or absorbed it, or even appropriated it. There came a man sent from God, whose name was John. This man came to witness that he might testify of the light, that all men might believe in it, adhere to it, and trust in it through him. Now, does anybody want to comment?
Well, I love the fact that it talks about the darkness didn't receive him, and they're witness of the light. Right? Arise and shine, the light has come, gross darkness has covered the earth. Right, so we're supposed to be like Yeshua when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But the differences of what that means, what the gross darkness was at that time. You know, what is the darkness that he's referring to?
What was the gross darkness?
Now, what's the darkness? It's the light. So I think this is what the deciding factor is that it's him. How do you use it? Right? He's the light. Right? Now, obviously, I believe in being for observant. Yeshua was for observant, right? He's the example, but there are systems of men that are set up that imitate, if they say they serve Yeshua and they really don't. And you can always tell by who they elevate. Right? If you elevate Yeshua, you are, in the ministry, bringing forth light into the world. If you're elevating a man, you're not. And it's always some type of something off spiritually because it comes about the man. Right? It's just ever comes out of specific teaching, right? And some people don't really highlight the man, but they highlight something that the specific teaching. It's all about, we got to teach people this, and this, instead of teaching them Yeshua. And I'm not saying the teaching wouldn't apply, but it's not really highlighted. Yeshua is the light. Without Yeshua, you can have all the teaching in the world, but if you're focused not on him, it can be a mess. Right? And I know y'all uses a lot of that stuff to get to this stuff.
I think the light is also Torah. I mean, you see that throughout the Tanakh also, like the commandment is light. So it's kind of
That goes back to what I was saying. Right? If he's the light, because he's the living Torah, right? He's the example of how Torah is kept. So I think darkness here is also referring to people not keeping the Torah correctly.
Right.
I don't think we've read it, but does it go on here to say like maybe it's a different passage, so because their deeds were wicked, they would not come to the light?
there is a portion that has to do with that, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's not him, John one, but.
yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, you don't wanna be, the light exposes things also, you know, so it's like if you're trying to hide things, you're not gonna be that shy.
There's a story that I heard from, the story came from Billy Graham's wife. And they had brought, TV cameras into her house. And, they were gonna interview the whole family and type stuff, So, they spent a week cleaning up the house and doing all this stuff. And they brought the TV cameras in and the lights, and all the lights went on. And she sat there looking at all the cobwebs. And,
Oh, the dirt.
yeah, because no matter how hard you clean, you still know that stuff, And it was, that to her, it was, the light exposes it all. Yeah. And a lot of us run from that, yeah.
I was just saying also, just a real immediate quick thing to go for, you have denying Jehovah's Witness. Is even though they say they believe the Bible or even using King James now, but the new world, I think a lot of people, they changed it to the word was a God.
Oh, yeah.
So then I asked them how many gods you believe in, especially knowing that they're all about one. That says, oh, so there's God and then there's a God. And then I went to Isaiah 96 and it talks about, they say Jehovah is almighty. But that one says, it's talking about Yeshua. It says mighty God and Prince of Peace, which is not used as a father. So once again, I'm like, so you say that Christianity is pagan, but you're pagan. Because you're talking about God, a God, almighty, mighty. How many do you have?
I don't know if there's a very.
And I thought they changed it. It says that the word was made flesh. The word was God.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very complex conversation of like, who exactly is Yeshua? I mean, I think the Son of God is the simple term everyone can agree on. I think even the only begotten Son of God, so in a unique position. But there's people that confuse Yeshua with the Father. And that's, yeah.
Right, when you guys were talking earlier, that's what I was thinking about with this, is because you guys were talking about, the argument that some people believe that Yeshua is the Father.
Mhm.
This one's plain. It also says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. It really stresses that Yeshua is definitely the truth. He's the Word. And the Word was God. So he was, that's what it stresses right there.
And then, so I might be kind of in the minority here, but I'm still trying to learn things, but it seems to me like Yeshua was the first, the perfect people learn.
And that's what makes them perfect, because they can still learn.
You have to learn other people's impacts. Well, but I think Yeshua was the first thing that the Father created. So but even in our linear, even that is kind of like, we're in linear time, the Father is not, so is that even kind of relevant to? No.
Yeah, that argument's always been one in my head, is that argument about, it literally, when you go back to Genesis, he created the light and darkness was there long before the sun was even there. But he spoke the word. So when was the word created? At some point in time, if he spoke the word and Yeshua is the word, okay, at what point in time? Because at some point in time, that word is in.
When he created the world.
It's in his.
The word.
Well, it's a mental thing, right? It's a part. So how did that happen? We don't know that stuff.
There's a translation, I think, remember, where instead of using the only begotten Son, they use the only brought forth Son into where.
Well, yeah.
Where that would be, it made sense, and that the word was brought forth. If he's the only begotten Son, I thought was interesting, the way it was translated that way. I don't know if it's, if that was helpful here, but, being the word that was brought forth, it makes sense that when the Holy Spirit of the Most High Elohim, who no man has seen and lived, would that spirit, who is spirit, when it says in John that God is spirit, I think it was in chapter 4, when Yeshua himself reveals that Elohim is spirit, God is spirit, Yehovah, to the woman at the well, I think that's what it was in that context. That when the Spirit descended upon Yeshua as a dove, that that Spirit of Yehovah was indwelling fully and mightily in his only begotten Son to do the will of the Father. I think that's awesome, and that's so praise him for that. It's neat that he was that in the same power that brought him forward.
He also told the Pharisees before Abraham was, I am.
Yeah, it was those things that the Pharisees really got upset with him
I
for.
think they understood
They
it.
didn't like that.
I think they got it.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
And that's why when he was on trial, and they said, are you the son of God? He said, now, of course, Judaism is used to, we're all sons of God.
Right.
But I think there's more of the semantic, like, the Lord of Britain is the Lord of Britain. But the Lord, when Christians say the Lord, it's like when Jews say the name, they mean it's very specific thing. They're not just saying anybody. It might be a title, like God's a title.
Well, it may be a good example like Mashiach, like David was Mashiach, but not the Mashiach. Like
Okay, that's all.
Mashiach is just anybody who's anointed to rule over Israel. And so like,
Peter said.
David was Messiah?
yes, he was a Messiah. Anyone who's anointed as king of Israel is a Messiah. Because the Messiah means.
The Messiah, yeah.
Mashiach is the word Messiah. Yeah. So like, yeah, so it means, the word Messiah literally means.
Like David and all the prophets, the prophets, the priests, and the Levites were all anointed. They were Mashiach.
I think it's revealed in verse 4 here, where it says, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. It's that same light that is in each one of us if we are in covenant with him. Then that spirit that spoke, that like Moshe, who spoke with authority and power, and with Yehoshua himself. We also have the same spirit from the Heavenly Father, and dwelling in us, we have the same authority in Messiah, because we take hold of the same inheritance that he has. So that's awesome. That's what's so awesome. That light that was in him is in man,
Right,
which is the gospel. I mean, that's the truth. That his Holy Spirit can dwell with men. Awesome.
and that is the gospel. That's what,
But there's
You know-
still a difference between us and him.
Well, he's the king. He's the king of kings.
Firstborn over all creation.
Oh, yeah, he's the king of kings.
We're never firstborn over creation.
Here's the difference in the word though. You got, when Moses, he's a prophet, so he's considered like a Mashiach, right? But
The title.
said that there is a prophet that's coming, that if you don't listen to, right? So he's referring to a higher level, but it doesn't mean the one word doesn't apply to others. Because that's how we're supposed to be. When you go home to your family, you're supposed to be the priest of your family, right? You're supposed to be your light, your words are supposed to be light unto Yeshua's in the household, right? You're supposed to now men manipulate that, but that's really, they should be able to speak life into their families and the word that they need, like a Mashiach in their house. And really, I mean, I'm not saying we should go around calling ourselves Messiahs. That might send the wrong message.
Right.
But we are supposed to be an extension of him. Where we're going. Yes. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Like that,
So we
yeah.
can say
We're
there's
supposed to be like
God
in a dark
in us.
place every time we do something.
I know, but we can say there's God in us, but different than New Age, we're not God.
What Matthew was saying though, so we bring light into a situation. to bring the Torah into the situation properly applied, right?
Right.
So when we come in with something like, for instance, Larry, you guys know Larry went to India, and these guys keep on getting sick, right? So Larry goes in, he goes, you don't bury your dung according to Torah, you put it on the side of your house for fuel to dry it out. That's why you're getting sick. So the people actually stopped doing it, started burying their poop, and the sickness is all left. He brought light into a dark place. And he was like a Mashiach to them.
It wasn't just through obedience, but it was by faith, and then obeying by faith.
It's both.
That opened the kingdom, allowed the Torah to be manifest among his people, and so that Yahuwah is glorified. And
The
people,
Torah is the healing of the nation,
the Spirit is sent forth to be able to heal. Do it.
which is, since Yeshua is the living Torah, right? Yeshua is the healer of the nations.
Yes.
It's both.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's Yeshua, but it's, we know it's actually Yeshua is the living word, right? But we also know that the Yeshua's, how he interpreted Torah is part of it.
Right.
This is how you apply what is written.
And he's been given all authority by the Father, by the Heavenly
Yeah.
Father. All authority is given
Oh.
over all the earth, right?
And Joe, what you
Not Moses.
Well, you were saying, Joe, I think I kind of see the same thing. Like where I was saying, I'm not Yeshua, but when I'm following
Go back
him, I
here.
essentially I'm essentially being him in the world, like when I'm doing his will, he tells me to do something specific and I go do it in the way he tells me to do it.
Right.
And I think that's the same relationship between him and the Father, is that he's not the Father. But when he's out there doing what the Father told him to do, like the Father would do it, he's essentially showing you who the Father is. So we can do the same thing through him. Like if we're doing what Yeshua would do, we're essentially showing the world who Yeshua is. And so Yeshua was just doing the same thing, but he had that relationship with his Father. So we're kind of like another rung down. It's the same relationship, but just another,
That I do nothing without my Father.
Yeah.
It's just like, the whole, not the whole, but of the Yom Teruah, they would fill the shofar with the oil to anoint. And Yeshua he came as a prophet, he left as a high priest, he intercedes for us, and he's coming back as a king. And so those are the only three anointings. And so,
That's an example, a real cool example, where it goes exactly with verse 5 there, about the oil in the horn. It's an example of the anointing in a vessel that's like, a corruptible vessel. As it says here in verse 5, and the light shines in the darkness. We just read this earlier, but light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. It's the same way we can see ourselves, is that the light shines within us. It shines in us from the Most High, where we were discussing this maybe the other day. We're a corruptible flesh, but the light shines in us. The light is, but the light is overcome that darkness, or whatever that corruptibility within us, which is also awesome. And it's just a small text there, but that's kind of what it reveals, is that even though we have corruptible flesh, that Holy Spirit life in us is able to overcome that, which is awesome. That's under resurrection power.
Well, that's why you can testify to other people and you can change their lives by the things that you say and do, because our light can change them. Because it's him in us.
To use a worldly example, like Steve and I both worked for Spectrum at one time, thank goodness not anymore.
So you probably.
But
The all-seeing eye.
we had some authority to represent the company, so I could sign people up and tell them about it and do all kinds of things. But I'm not the accounting department, and if they got sued, I'm not the one that makes policies or anything. I was a representative for them. So I represented the company to people, but I'm not the company. I'm part of the company, but I'm not the head of the company.
That is not how Spectrum uses it, though, just so you know, because I've been involved.
Well, I mean,
Spectrum said- I'm being serious, and this is
any
what they're saying.
salesperson with any company,
You said, but you're not the company, right? That's
I'm,
not true. though.
I'm part of it,
That's not
and
true.
I have certain authority,
It's not true though.
but I don't make the policy.
You don't make public, I think the father makes policies, right?
Right,
But you are the company.
I'm representing.
No, it's more than that.
Yeah.
Cause, this is what got me in trouble. I almost got fired. Topic. Because I was in a meeting and they said, wherever you are, it's Time Warner territory. So right now, you go home, you're on the phone, it's Time Warner, that's part of their kingdom. That's how they do it. Legally,
You agree to that when you agree to the terms.
you agree to the terms. So what happens is they have policies with homosexuality. And I really asked in the meeting in front of everyone, because I'm not a scared little guy. I said, so you're telling me if I preach against homosexuality at the pulpit, because I'm a representative, because I represent the company, I use that same words, right?
Right.
You're trying to say that that part of the congregation is Time Warner space, and they said, yes. And I said, no, it ain't. And I was under investigation for 30 months to get fired because they were trying to find footage of me preaching against homosexuality.
I understand that, no, different.
Wow.
What I'm saying is that their view, you use the example, but that's not true, because in their example, they actually believe you are.
In a sense,
Wow.
but then there's a lot of things I don't have the authority to do, so.
Well, yeah, I get that, but I was talking about, we're talking about ownership, so
Right, true and fair.
correct me if I'm wrong, but you were saying that when you go somewhere, it's more than just being a representative. You are an extension of him,
That's true, yeah.
right? That's what I was trying to say.
And we had the power to sign people up for service. But we didn't have the power to like change their policy.
And this is kind of like the reverse of true also, like when in Acts Stephen gets stoned, it was kind of like, in a sense, it was a sin against God. You know, I mean, it was Stephen that kind of, but Stephen was kind of acting as Yeshua, you know, like he was being obedient. And so like their reaction was really reacting to God, not to Stephen.
Right.
Mhm.
But who was speaking through Stephen? Was it not the Holy Spirit speaking through him? The actual words that Yahweh is speaking. And so it was not only Stephen. Stephen was the vessel out of obedience,
Right.
speaking forth the word of truth. So that it hit to the heart of the men. They were convicted, yeah,
Right.
but then they denied the truth, and then they started stoning because they resisted the truth. That, you know, that happens it's like, that's what we're called to do. to some degree. Not all.
Too far back there.
Is to actually speak forth the word of truth from Yehovah. I mean, he's giving him all authority, submitting to his word, so that his word goes forth and changes people. Either identifies them, points them out, and saying, okay, well, this one is obviously evil, and of the evil one because they're responding out in wrath against the word, rebellion against the word, or exposing who is the true, who is his true children, who repent and obey the word. That's how people come to life. That's my experience anyway. People reject the truth or they accept the truth.
Right.
When it's the word of Yahweh going forth out of his chosen vessels.
And I think what we're talking about is the reason why, this is gonna lead up to your food, because that's the reason why the Lord God is impossible outside of the temple. Baal has been right, Yeshua is our high priest, right, that leads us into the Holy of Holies. Right, so stuff can actually manifest in the presence, and that's what's changed, because he's bringing that on as an extension of him. So as an extension of him, we can go in there with him, and lead us. I'm not saying we can go invade that place without him.
No.
For those, obviously,
Yeah.
he can actually lead us into that place, and I'm just, even I was talking about earlier. I'm in my bedroom, I wake up, the Lord God came into my bedroom. Right, I'm getting word, and Yeshua is there. Right, I'm having an intimate conversation with the king. My Lord God residing, I didn't even notice it, my wife saw it, right? But that, I don't think that's possible before Yeshua. I really don't. I think that's one of the things that has changed, that through him, we now have access that we didn't have access to before to a greater level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's why the veil was rent, to show us that we had access. Right, and before, it's not like we had no access, I'm not trying to say that, Cause like Matthew said, even with the Torah, I mean, even being able to know the Torah is access. Right, so I'm not, I think I think it's gone up, it's increased in our walk that we can actually have those kind of moments.
Yeah, I heard a really good message about that, but even I didn't know, really know the ancient Jewish culture. But, the tabernacle, when he told them, it really was very convicting to me, because they had this whole system of how to approach God, right? And the high priest, and then go and sacrifice and tie a rope around his leg in case it wasn't accepted. But there was this whole system. But then he said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. And a lot of Christians didn't read that and just taking the face out of it. But I was told the name of the door to the temple, meaning is the way. The truth was you had to wash just like, Tikvah, which represents the word. You have to really wash in the word. This ministry would actually say this is a great way to pray. Like when you go to pray, first, you understand the right way to go. Right. Then you immerse yourself in the word. They brought a sacrifice to repent of your sin. You don't approach the king without repenting. And then the light is behind the veil. So when he told them that, they understood what he was saying was, before you had to go through this complicated system and qualify, now, straight from the door into the Holy of Holies.
I don't know if I agree with the application 100%, but I hear what you're saying, as the gist of it.
The principle though, the approach.
And you're saying about how it's saying is correct.
Yeah, having the right
What he's
approach.
saying is correct, but I would think, because of that, I know people, and I might agree with you. That, I think those ways to go in there have not been eliminated. I think they can be spiritually applied now. But I still think the process to go in, and you're saying it really, it's maybe just the way you said it, maybe that helped. Right, then we still go through that process, it can just be spiritually done sometimes to go in. So I don't think it's eliminated, that, what's been done, I think there's the deeper level can be accessed now, to it, but I don't, even if we, because sometimes before I come to service, okay, every time, second time, pass open, I tend to immerse or mix those even before I come in. Right, because I'm going to Yeshua in prayer, because mikvah has to be done in living water, has to be flowing water, and technically when you're in a shower, you have water flowing from the roof to the drain. So technically it is still a mikvah, I'm not saying being able to soak in. Right, that's why people start praying in tongues a lot in the shower and stuff, because they're getting caught up in an immersion of some type, mikvah of some type. Right, so I do that stuff, I do a lot of those rituals, at least in a spiritual way before I even come in. And I think there's a difference when people actually do those things, and that's what we're actually gonna talk about next week. It's crazy, this is great foundation for next week. Maybe, but there are things, and Paul's gonna do a teaching on it. It's how to enter into his presence, and the more you follow those things that were done, the more closely you follow to them, the more likely the glory cloud comes into the house, the presence of the Lord covers it. That stuff happens when you still go through that process. So I don't want to eliminate the process, because everything that tells me is the Lord is still pleased with that process and still to go through it. It's just, I'm not saying you gotta fly all the way to Jerusalem to go to the temple to do it, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that would be bad either. I'm just, all the greater if we could do it right there on the spot. But I'm saying to do that process and actually enter in, everyone I know that actually studies the spiritual realm in depth, all agree with it. You go through that process still, it actually heightens the sense of God in the room. There's a flow of the rock, and once he flows in the room, all because you actually still went through that process. And so I just want to clarify, because, and you might have meant it that way, so I don't want to do it. The way it was worded, it sounded like you're saying it was kind of done away with, and then you can just go straight in, and I'm not saying you can't have a conversation with him and stuff happen. I'm just saying this whole process is still there. And it will lead to a greater level of anointing, greater level of flow of the rock, hearing, all those things.
Well, the high priest has to do quite a ritual to get into before they even went to the temple with no shoes, no, and had the mikvah and change their clothes, and
bring your sacrifice.
Yeah, and all that, and so, yeah. Right. You know, another thing I saw here, in the beginning, there are sheep. That, you know, very profound.
Yeah, it is.
And was the word, you know.
I have wondered, and again, it's more theoretical thought, if Yeshua wasn't the light created in Genesis, you know, because it almost sounds like that's what's being said here, that Yeshua is the light. Because the light created was not from the sun or anything, you know, all that was created later.
Correct.
And so, yeah, and like, what is light? You know, like, the light is just light created.
Yeah,
Even when he comes back, right? It says the sun will, it's like the sun will never set, there's always perpetual light.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it does, it says that the same king for the witness.
This
so
is
they
the
have to-
gun, it's eu-
Josh,
Israeli, the gun,
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's
Same king.
eucalyptus and it might.
or what-
Oh, I
Elijah.
actually, I didn't bring it. I always have a little eucalyptus
He was.
oil.
But try, it also
Yeah.
will, do a number on your nose.
He's also the least of the kingdom. I think there's some stuff that goes on that transfer when John is in his ministry as well, that transfers a little bit when after Yeshua raises.
And by the way, look further, it says he was in the world and the world was made by him and the world knew him not.
Which verse is that one?
And
Yeah, so what,
he came to his own and his own received him not.
yeah,
So
so what are you getting from that? What that emphasize?
Yeshua.
Here's something.
Oh, then you should get the light being referred to as
The word.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point.
It's almost like, I've heard, because they don't read the gospel, they show, some missionaries show Jews Isaiah 53. And oh, God, it's kind of Jesus, and that's the ground reading. I say, oh no, I'm reading from Jewish prophet. But they never read that normally. so
Right.
they're
In the
like-
yeshivas, they don't read them.
But when they read it to them, even in English, they say, oh, that's obviously, you know, Yeshua, but you know, you're reading New Testament here. It's good.
Three, four of the problems than you do the problems. You know, anyways, you know.
Well, one of the arguments with the Dead Sea Scrolls was whether Isaiah 53 was ever really there. And then when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, and there was Isaiah 53.
That's true.
There
There
was
was a
Yeah.
strengthening of.
Yeah.
They're still displayed on the museum.
Yeah, I actually saw them. They were in Chicago for a little bit. I was in Chicago at the time. It's really amazing.
I just have the scripture here, Proverbs, I'd like to read it if that's okay.
Sure.
Kind of goes.
I don't know, we're really not talking about five. Go ahead, Brian, we'll let it slide.
All right. If you don't want to hear it, just plug your ears. It says, chapter 8, verse 22, it says, Yehovah possessed me, the beginning of his way, as the first of his works of old. I was set up ages ago at the first, before the earth ever was. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. And when there were no springs heavy with water, before mountains were sunk, before the hills I was brought forth. Before he had made the earth and the fields, for the first dust of the wood. When he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he inscribed a circle on the face of the deep. When he set the clouds above. And when he made the fountains of the deep strong. When he gave to the sea its law, so that the waters would not transgress his mouth. And when he has inscribed the foundations of the earth, then I was beside him. Then I was beside him, it says.
Where are you at? What chapter?
Proverbs.
Yeah, Proverbs chapter 8. Proverbs chapter 22.
Which verse did you start in? 22.
I started in verse 22, like just said. Yeah. I'm sorry, did I start too soon?
No,
Oh,
I'm
you're
just
fine.
looking up, I just looked up when you started, I just didn't look up.
I started with.
That goes with what we're talking about setting
Sure
boundaries.
does.
We're imitating that.
Yeah.
He set the boundaries for the water can be like chaos, right? It's chaos now, you need to establish a boundary, right? When we're acting like Elohim, we're establishing boundaries, we're crossing lines.
It's the father's boundary for his children, in this case, even his only begotten son. And it says, it alludes to, an example where the son is next to his father, a master workman. A master workman it's like he's like in the carpenter shop with his father.
It's not amazing.
No. Carpenter, he's trying to. We translate it corrupt. I don't know.
Oh, but look at where, keep going.
Oh, yeah, and it says, then I was beside him, a master workman. And I was his delight, this is interesting here, day by day, rejoicing before him all the time. Okay, and we have imagery of that, even in our creation, with the sun itself, the sun that provides light during the day. It's an example right there, like that's a picture of the rejoicing day by day in the creation. Just interesting how those things are related. Oh, and it says, you want me to read further?
Yeah.
Okay, it says in 31, rejoicing in the world, his spirit. And my delights were with the sons of men. And now listen to me, you children, for blessed are they who guard my ways. Yeah, I really like that one, sure.
I think that's amazing that we had Midrash today instead, we normally dive into prayer more, but we had the Midrash, but everything we talk about the Midrash is coming forward.
Right.
That shows that the Ruach was actually in power in charge of the Midrash. That's the confirmation.
Great job. No, I just want to share that with
Exactly what Steve was saying earlier, now then my sons, listen to me, blessed are those who keep my ways, listen to my instruction and be wise, do not ignore it. Blessed is the man who listens to me, watching daily at my doors, waiting at my doorway. For whoever finds me finds life, and receives favor from the Lord. But whoever fails to find me harms himself. All who hate me love death. I found out about that a while. One last.
It's interesting how there is a little bit of a correlation there with the sons.
It's, no, Proverbs.
Proverbs 8.
It's the whole thing.
Yeah, just put it up.
But he just read
Do
the
like
last
22 to
chapter.
the end.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what that explains to me? Yeah. I was always wondering what about this. All these little stuff. Now have you noticed, look at everything, look at science fiction, to science. And turn it into horror. We'll take a fantasy, a kid's thing, and turn it into horror. It turns everything into horror. Those who hate me love death.
It's the absolute truth, that's the truth.
Doesn't recognize him.
Yeah.
That's why it says in Deuteronomy 30, choose life that you may live. Why do so many people like war?
Those who hate me love death.
They love that.
As a little kid, I liked it.
They hate him, that's a
So the store
characteristic.
today, all the Halloween stuff is up really.
Right. It's been up for a while.
Yeah, I went in there the other day, I thought you were.
And your skeleton out.
You can go to incognito, so you can actually burn it all down.
I leave my house, I usually go to a New Year's something. I don't do. Michael got me to pass a track. Positive. He did, but I usually just leave that, I just usually leave, you know. I don't
You
even.
guys don't grab pillow sacks and go to a different.
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go.
No, I was just gonna tell her, funny story.
Good look, Zach.
I work with this, rabbi and his wife. He's a very good friend. But I lent them my car actually when I came here. And, he has, Shireen, and he had during, Halloween time, he had this, a month and a half Taco Tuesday or Taco Thursday or something like that. And all these, it was on Halloween day and there's a lot of Americans there and they were talking about, what they did when they were kids, and on Halloween and things that they dressed up as, and I told them the story, about, we lived on a golf course, and all of us kids were out, trick or treating, and my mom was passing out the candy, and my dad was in the back watching, football, of course, and, my mother opened up the door, to get candy, and some guy had a trench coat on and a bag over his head, and he was naked, and he flashed my mom. And my mom was running around looking, for my dad all over the house, and
You look for a hot dog on.
and
Sorry.
my dad walked in the backyard. He walked in the back of it, and he had a trench coat and a big bag underneath it.
Underneath his chair or something?
Underneath.
How was your dad?
Like, and you didn't know it was me. Right.
Oh, that's good.
Everybody just got a laugh at that. Sky, he always is dominating, and you never see, there's something mentally wrong with him. And I've never seen him smile, never seen any expression on his face, and he just spit all over the place, and he laughed so hard. It was so funny. I was glad I got a laugh at it.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, let's go on.
Oh, one.
Of course you do.
Well, yeah, so the.
Say, hey, stop.
The comprehension isn't, it's not a logical, difficulty in comprehending what's going on. It's an emotional, you're so invested in something that isn't really what God wants you to be doing, that you can't comprehend. That could be with Pharisees, like they're so invested in like, oh, it has to be this way. But then when they're clearly shown, like without any doubt, like, oh, it's not that way, they can't even. So I think to kind of apply it to ourselves, that's kind of how, I think it's how we all have things that we're like, are kind of idols, we emotionally, even though we know deep down it doesn't logically make sense, some of the things we're doing. It's just we get caught up in these
Well, yeah,
things.
and
And
that's,
then when the light comes, we have that opportunity to say like, okay, but usually it's kind of an investment. At least for me, it's been like, oh, well, I've worked so much on this, and then it's like, well, it's worthless. You want to keep working on it? Yeah, well, yeah, I've worked so much on it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
that's exactly right. But the key,
That's true.
the key with that, and it says comprehend, and here it says, it couldn't receive it or absorb it,
Yeah.
which is really the same concept in the fact that you just can't make any changes. You can't do anything because you're so caught up in whatever.
I had a friend of mine who just passed like 3 months ago. He was my father's friend. And I used to work for him and we talked about the Lord. And, he goes, oh, I don't believe that shit. I go, Dick, it's not a game. He said, well, if I'm right, I'll never make a difference. He said, but if you're right, because he didn't believe in that.
Right.
He goes, but if you're right, he goes, well, then, oh no, I go, it's not a game, Dick. And he passed. With that, I'm so unfortunate.
How important was that conversation? Maybe. You don't know.
Well, he talked to his, and I was in there all the time. I love him. Just because he doesn't love the Lord doesn't mean I can't love him. And I love him, and he loved me. But he goes, David, I'll tell you, I spoke to the rabbi. I said, yeah, he goes, I asked the rabbi if I need to believe in God. The rabbi goes, of course. And I said, what? You just keep on paying your tithes, and you don't have to, I was like,
That's what he.
yeah, and I was like, but it's unfortunate because, somebody who, but he was a very, very intelligent man. As far as intellect goes, you know, he just, so I think the very intelligent people have a hard time comprehending spiritual stuff. Anyway,
Very much so.
so he just rejected it altogether. And unfortunately, you know, he's wherever he's at now, but, he didn't grab it, you know, and I said, it's not a game, man.
I'm a professor in computer science. I mean, I lived and breathed logic. Everything had to be logical to me.
Right,
And when I really thoroughly committed my life to Christ, I used to have to go, don't think, stop thinking, because that's exactly what the problem was. I would think myself out of this, or I think myself out of that. or
because then
whatever.
it's not faith, you're trying to think it.
Logic it all
Right.
together. Or I would be afraid that I would logic myself out. So I'd be afraid to research that because I was.
Well,
gonna
you know,
logic
if
myself
I'm
out.
right, I won't know the difference. I go, oh, Jack. No.
The rabbi, you know, I mean,
Oh,
they-
I'm sure he's gonna get his
the
when
rabbi-
judgment time comes. You know, it's gonna, everything is
thing
gonna.
right here, you know, I have a lot of Orthodox parading friends. I mean, the rabbis will go to the door during the women's nida and make sure they're separated, and you'll want to see the pads of the women, make sure that they're, I'm sick, the things that these rabbis do.
That's not something that they would do in Talmud, but it would be. That's not normal.
That's,
I gotta ask, so what's the reason for the, circumcision? In the blood? Putting the mouth on the circumcision too.
yeah,
What
that's
is-
been,
what is their doctrine?
that's another thing, so.
That would fall under tradition,
Yeah,
because it's not,
Even some of the traditions are based on something.
but that,
We're
I saw that one time. And I
don't
don't
know.
know.
we're not supposed to eat blood. I mean, for
Right.
one thing,
Well, they just spit it out.
Right, you spit it out.
That's one of the fact. It's what you're turning it around upside down. It is what he swallows. I mean, I don't know if that's what they're doing.
Well, really probably say oral, and it's done for this.
I saw it one time and I'm like, cause I was right there and I'm like, what did I just see? What the, and everybody else, you know, they're used to it. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, what is that?
What is that? And I thought I saw something that, you know, an imaginary thing and I was like, did I just see? Yeah. I was like, well, that's enough for me. That's all.
Right, the shock was, no one else.
Is that a major, like an Ashkenazi or a Sephardi tradition?
I don't know.
Or is it a more, sectarian?
I saw
I'm not. With the round.
the moil. So moil, that's the kind of,
My knowledge.
I was, and this was in Israel, and I'm like, whoa,
Kind of blur.
that's not biblical.
What kind of congregation was it?
I don't even recall, Steve, it was so long ago. But I saw, and I can't unsee something.
Yeah, you can't
Mine
unsee.
was in New York, and there was, the problem was there was a herpes epidemic happening between the rabbis and the babies being born. If someone had herpes in there, they started passing around to doing that. I'm just,
Like the moil during circumcision would be.
Right, that's who
if
did
he
it.
had herpes, then he gave it to the child, or maybe the child was born with it because of something else. And then he doesn't, he was, in the child. I don't think anyone knows how it started, but one of the two.
Right, a blood-borne disease was passed on that way.
Karen, when you go home, you ask your rabbi
Yeah.
friends how that happened, how it started. Cause I have no idea.
Yeah.
And they would probably know, or they'll just chalk it up to tradition.
But you know what, I was just gonna say to encourage you on a lighter note, now the scripture said, I thought about this.
They spit it out.
No, I'm not even talking about, God is just. So like I've heard, well, what about the people living in the jungle and never heard the gospel? But I noticed in Revelation that every eye will see on the earth, underneath the earth, the people that died or to bring people back from the ocean and drowned. So I think that I believe that everybody will get a chance, even your friend. And you know, sometimes he's safe and then
But he's dead.
I know, but I'm saying, but he talked to you and it wasn't right when he talked to you, he had some time.
Oh,
But
he
never-
had you.
Okay, so maybe later. Yeah, and he heard him say himself that, he might even, one time I told somebody, something that was unbiblical, and later I said, Joe, what you said was ridiculous. You know
But
what
I
mean?
think he looks at for people who never heard the gospel or live in these remote areas, he said somewhere in there that were responsible for the life that we're here.
Right. But it doesn't.
So be, am I right?
But if you
Have we
told
read
them
that?
the truth.
Well, I don't disagree with the statement.
What I'm saying is we need to sow the seed. And only the Holy Spirit knows the very end result. We don't know, like I might tell my relative and they say, you're crazy, you're nuts. But I told him.
Right.
And then
No, that's,
maybe when he's facing a truck on the wrong side of the road, and a drunk driver, right before he was hit by the truck, he says, Joe was right.
Yeah, but that's
No,
that's
or
more
you
the
know,
Christian side of salvation.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm just saying it,
Cause it says the wicked will cry on their deathbed, he won't be their friend.
Yeah, it's true. And because salvation is something that's not just a one-time thing that happens in one moment, millisecond.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it can't happen because there's people on the cross.
Yeah, well,
Right,
it even
right.
says, you know, those who do not,
Body willing to hang out at any point.
who hasn't denied Torah or, yeah, they won't, God will not hear their prayer if they do not keep Torah.
Well, it also says that we, and I think it's in Psalms, that literally everyone has a natural ability. They start and they have the ability to see God in everything.
creation.
And even that, so they may not know about Yeshua, maybe they don't, creation itself yells it out to them. And they have the ability to ignore that or not.
That's what we just read, it's our responsibility to find him out.
Right.
I think it's our responsibility to witness. We can't control if our friends are gonna accept.
Well,
but
that's
we're
a given,
supposed to
yeah.
tell them.
That's what we do in outreach too, is that we just
Plant
simply
the seed.
just point out the blatantly obvious to people and say, look, even though no one else is talking about this, we're gonna put it right in front of your face and say, look, acknowledge what you already know is true. And then obey the Holy Spirit that's speaking to you. This is what he says. And people right there have an opportunity to say, okay, I can get real with myself, or I can just go on and play church or play whatever, play drugs, whatever I do. Because that's what they do. That's what we have opportunity to do every day. When people.
Yeah, and I think the idea that a prayer is kind of what saves you is it's not biblical. Like Yeshua does save you. Like, I think for me, I started realizing this a lot going to Kavod, because I do believe there's a lot of Orthodox Jews there that are saved, but they would tell you that Yeshua is not the Messiah. But I can tell by like the way that they're convicted about things that
But
like,
you have to confess them,
well,
don't you?
it says
Isn't that
that,
part of it?
I
You have
think
to
there's
confess
a
them.
part that says like, with their words, they confess him, but their actions, they deny him. Whereas in Judaism, it's almost the opposite. Like, not all Jews, but a lot of Jews, like, in their actions confess him, but then verbally deny him. So like, I think that there's more value in your actions and following what he taught than there is in saying, Yeshua says, like, you tell me, Lord, Lord, you don't do the things that I say. So, like, there's not really, calling him Lord doesn't get you anything. You know,
I
when you do
disagree
what
with-
he commands you. to
Well,
do.
somebody I know ain't a cracker and I'm worried about them.
Well,
David? Oh. Sorry, Steve, I'm drinking.
The night before I got sick, I prayed to God and I said, I'm thinking about accepting, but do I have to admit it? I didn't want to tell my family and other people and. So he took me right to the scripture, he just, they wanted to look in the Bible things. If you deny me before men, I'll deny you before the Father.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, wow. And then, but then the encouraging one was, if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Yeshua died and God raised him from the dead,
Yeah.
you are saved. So I also knew that once I prayed that, there was no, it was assurance.
Yeah, but I would argue that that was actually an action, not a, because, like the verse says, like with your heart, because your heart was already kind of like, okay, I think this might be true. Whereas the Jews, it's their heart. I think,
For 6 months.
yeah, but you did eventually, so you didn't instantly make the right action.
Fought and you overcame it.
Yeah, and I think with the Jews, it's more the case of like, they know that this Jesus is the false Messiah. But because they don't know who Yeshua really is, and so their heart is not wrong, they're just uninformed about like the details, you know?
So that they cannot be a witness because they can't testify to the truth as they have witnessed it because they have not examined it enough.
It's
Well,
like,
they wanna
well,
testify
I
against
think it has to do with just how much truth they know, because not all, like, they're, you know, Judaism is like Christianity, isn't it? A lot of people know. But like, the ones that are righteous, you know, are doing the truth that they know.
Right.
You know, and I think that's all that's really required, is like, the things God has shown you, you have to do those.
It's
If
clear.
God hasn't shown you something, you can't really do it.
It's
right?
by the power of the Holy Spirit, because he says that the partial blinding has occurred until the fullness of the goyim has come in. Therefore, they will not see completely, and so they can't bear witness to the truth that they have not been revealed to them.
Just like the church student who was seeing it.
That's why the goyim need to come in first. The goyim need to come in first. So that's why that's part of the outreach ministry, part of that mindset is that make sure that the goyim and all of them have understood and know so that the blinding can be taken away from the older brother, you know.
I would say this. So I don't think anyone can be saved without Yeshua. Period. But I think some people are following the voice of Yeshua and don't realize who it is yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Abraham, when he came out, I think he was listening to Yeshua, even though he may not have known who he was. But
I mean,
I don't want to judge someone's walk. So I think some people, I've met Muslims that are really following Yeshua, they just don't understand who it is yet. And when they presented the gospel, they were like, oh, it's him. Like, and it's true for them.
Yeah.
And
And
you
when you
accept
say-
him because you.
I've seen.
And we all agree that there may be a certain time that we pray a certain prayer and we mark that. But in reality, it was a process. It didn't happen overnight.
Right, like you were justifying, like your heart was already in a position where you're even saying, like, I think this is
I've
true.
been reading the New Testament.
Like, I stopped stealing on Shabbat. So.
Right,
It's a start. It's a start.
You say keep it holy.
Try Friday next, you know, stealing on Friday.
That was evidence for what I was saying, though, is the fact that, the soldier got his ear cut off. He gets maimed, you know, he can't serve in the temple. And I think that's one of the reasons Yeshua said, hey, people, and he was his ear, puts his ear back on, because he's really in the temple working for him. And so even though there's a blindness that they don't understand it's Yeshua, I think that there are a lot of people that are Jewish that are following him as their high priest, they just don't have understanding of it yet. But I want to be clear that I'm not saying the Jewish people are saved without Yeshua. I think it's an understanding of where that they don't really understand who he is, maybe.
And what I said earlier, I didn't find that, so that's not.
But the statement was still true.
Yeah, but it's not, I wouldn't say it, it's not.
But it is in Romans, it says, essentially like those who don't have the law, their conscience accuses or excuses them. So they're kind of like, essentially, everyone has a conscience, and that is kind of like, yeah.
And that's why when we're doing evangelism, and I've taught on this several times, is trying to find people where they're at in that process and help them to the next step. Because if they're getting, like when I met, he was selling drugs, he's like, I really got to selling drugs. So I witnessed to him, he accepted Yeshua, and I ran into him a month later, and he's not selling drugs.
Yeah.
He was bootlegging.
So it's the next step, you know, I'm not hurting anyone.
You know, huge step for him,
Yeah.
not for me, but it's a huge step for him.
Thank
And I
you,
started ministering about that, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, I have why.
Those of us who have to see, Dr. Sully, in the smaller, like you told me, we used to, even in Bexley, witnessing. And, at the time we met on, Friday, so we were on Saturday, we didn't meet. So what we did is we go out and do evangelism. It was everybody, I mean, it was just, actually, if you go to Bexley, you might find more Catholic people than Jewish, but.
Especially now, something about.
But we happened to run into Jewish ladies.
Still out there.
And
Love in New Orleans.
we were teasing her, we were saying, aren't you supposed to be Catholic? She was like, well, you guys are Jewish, aren't you supposed to be too?
Yeah,
We were kidding each other, but we were witnessing to her. And, that day she actually prayed us to the Lord. So what we didn't know is, we found out later, her sister called and came all the way out from California. Because she was witnessing to her for like 22 years. And we just walked in and prayed. So sometimes, you know, it's.
Her sister playing as a team.
Some water, right, some hard. And then her sister was was watering that seed.
Right. Right.
That's how I met my good buddy, was in the street on Shabbat. We were both out there on Shabbat. That's why we connected so well.
They can tell you that story, pleasures and, things happening, I'll never forget, we were out something, we mixed with mustard, and was there on the floor, and we were like this punk rock gang, and we'd always like yell at us and stuff, and tell us to go, well, finally, one day,
Away from us, you clean
the
people.
guy, he wasn't the leader, that had him, comes over to us in secret. And I'll never forget him, because his head was shaved, but he had a mohawk that was colored, and he had a white mouse that lived in his hair. He just ran up and down.
It's like I'm moving here, so hard to forget.
Yeah. And everybody's like, come over here, Will. Why?
Yeah.
He was convicted. It was just a spirit that we were out there. We didn't even say anything to him.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to pray and receive the Lord, but he wanted to do it like sort of out of the way so that the gang couldn't see him, you know. And we did, and next thing I know, he just picked me for some reason, and he goes, here, take these away from me. And he put needles in it. He gave me needles. And I was like, wow, that was a new believer.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, I took a bag of marijuana and his pistol and laid it on the altar.
Wow. Well, that's repentance, you know, true repentance.
I prayed with him and he was high. I prayed with him, he put me high. He was like, that's a mess.
So you came to,
I paid good money.
you're sober, all.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? The Holy Spirit just told me to do something, to get rid of this. Awesome, that's awesome, that's the Holy Spirit.
But, you know, and I mean, I kind of struggle sometimes too, because, you know, living in Israel, you have to be very careful. I mean, you can lose, you know, but there are a lot of, I mean, when I went to Chabad for as many years as I did in Tacoma, Washington, I found out there, you know, it was like, we knew, you know, there was one couple, they invited me, they lived on a boat and, on the pier, and we just knew each other were believers, and we had lunch, and we all, you know, her and her husband and I, we just all started talking about Yeshua, you know, I mean, be surprised at how many people really do believe, but they can't, you know, it's like,
The cost is a lot higher.
it's, yeah, and I have to be careful. I work with nothing but, you know, Orthodox. And, and harassing and so forth, you know, and I just, you know, I have to be very careful because, I mean, they're radical Jews that I mean, they'll slit your tires, they'll, you know,
Well, there's that group called Yad Lachim,
yeah.
and they're, anti-missionary radical Jews that will just harass you and make you like.
Well, Mike and Tony, when they were in, Jerusalem, they were actually dealing with them in the street going back and forth. But they had to deal with it, it was pretty intense.
But you know what?
That's, those guys were going off on.
They're not doing that anymore.
Oh, really? Well, I haven't been there for 8
I
years.
know, I mean, I just found out myself just about a few weeks ago. They're not doing that
Changed the
anymore.
law of the federal, the Beresfords that they've been in court for years, do they ever get?
I think if there's still, I
Are they
don't
when
know,
the same Jews from South Africa sued they were Jewish, and they
Yeah.
said, we have a right, we're believers. The
They
law of
would
return,
return.
but it was like in the court for like.
Well, it was the Shah's party.
Yep.
Who was in control of the, Miss Right Up Knee when you do your absorption. And they were picking and choosing who they could come in and.
Yeah.
So as soon as I think that party gets out, whoever takes it over will be a lot more, hopefully lean.
And we have a election coming up November 1st.
Yep.
And so things are changing, you know, there's Christian parties that are coming together, you know, and, so.
They know they depend on the church.
Yeah, that too,
But
but
they got high tech there too. Tourism, I believe, used to be number one, but then high tech over, okay, a couple years ago.
A lot of the Russian
Yeah.
Jews put that with scientists, right? So,
well, a lot of, actually, yeah, a lot of,
It's Jews from all over the world returning to help, fuel it, you know, it's just.
like Jeremiah 16:16, you know, God says he's gonna fish for his people and then he's gonna hunt for his people and, you know, there's no Jews in, you know, in the Arab countries. And there's very few in Europe, and so the Western you know, like America, look what's going on here in America. I think that they're gonna start opening up the doors for Christians to start moving into Israel because they know they need the bodies. This war is coming, and so that's what, you know, and I mean, honestly, you drive around and you see empty Arab houses. I mean, seriously, they're like, they live in the first floor and then they've got 4 floors or 6 floors or 10 floors up.
Right.
And I think that those are gonna be the homes for the Jews that are gonna have to return.
Well, a lot of that comes from that, they'll build the buildings and then they'll knock down the walls so that they can, if you occupy that floor, you're gonna get taxed for it. So they'll build homes and they'll wall off certain rooms. They'll have them, they won't get taxed on them until you knock down the walls and then you start getting taxed.
Okay.
So that's how, and it's strange rule, but I've been, when I first got there, I was helping knock down those reinforced walls, which are not easy to come down.
Yes.
Well, that's a really interesting concept. They'll have the walls up and if there's no access to that room, they don't get charged. But as soon as you knock down the wall or opening, it's gonna.
fake wall come.
Right. I'm not, I'm sure you're not the first one to tell.
They need to know what the.
Right.
Needs to be able to spread the word in underground church and make sure it's kept. On the low now.
Yeah, where it moved, you know, I mean, I kind of contemplated, you know, that moving there, because it's near the Tikvah Junction, and it's, they throw a lot of rocks there, a lot of people have been, you know, killed and so forth, you know. So when I go around it, I haul ass, you know, but there's a soldiers there every 24/7. And so I wanna pick up some peppermint patties and so I can give it to them and so they, you know, cause they're kosher. You know, I wanna go to Walmart and get a whole bunch of them.
Stuff with couple hits.
Yeah, just they love stuff like that, you know. And so they're out there every morning and it makes, you know, it gives me a relief, you know, that I'm safe. And so,
I think that was the one thing that I wanted to bring up.
I knew you were going there.
Just the one thing, huh? Just the one thing. 45 minutes ago.
That's how you get past the border, you know.
How did we get to,
Or-
where did I just go?
pick up, you know, a few bags of peppermint patties, soldiers.
Keep that in
How
mind.
did we get to 3?
I know, David, it's bad.
No, I saw the light switch and I looked up.
All right, guys. We can continue in 1 with the testimony of John the Baptist, or we can go to 3.
I can say I cry a lot of tears for Christians, which have, a lot of them have friends of mine, you know, they've rejected me and they don't talk to me anymore because I'm in Israel and I'm doing, you know, the feast, or, you know,
Yeah.
following what.
I just chalk it up to none of the bishops.
and I've had so many couples, I mean, married couples that have left. They've gone from Christianity to Messianic, and then they want all the Judaism, you know? And
I don't understand that. I just do not understand that.
so many married couples. Not so much single, but it's just sad, you know? They were just so on fire for Yeshua, and now, you know, I know this couple, they say, oh, we used to believe in the J-man. I'm like, I say, J-man, his name isn't even Jesus, you know? I mean,
I had a friend in Israel, he was from Ohio as well. Tall, dude, he was a professor at Tikvah University. And I used to walk my dog all the time, and I ran into him, and we just talked, and I said, he goes, where you from? I said, Columbus. He goes, where? What side? I was like, east side. He goes, where do you want red? I go, what, dude?
Didn't expect that.
I'm like, what?
I didn't know.
How do you know about Water Ridge? I'm in Jerusalem, and he's talking about my high school. Oh, I call high school football, and I'm like, whatever, dude. I'm like, I don't know anything, I don't care. Anyways, he was in sports, but he was a Jewish guy, but he believed in Yeshua.
Yeah.
And he was single his whole life. I used to do some handyman work for him, and we were buddies and meet up and go out. And then, one time, he always wanted to get married. And I don't blame him. I'm there too, but he made a sacrifice.
Yeah.
And he met a religious Jewish girl. And he completely broke off, denied Yeshua, and wanted marriage more, and went off with her, and he got funneled into the, you know, where is that? Sort of like a B'nai Brak type deal, where you could just wither in like a little cockroach and nobody ever knows where you're at. And I never heard from him again. And I was like, what a shame, dude. All for marriage.
That's like denying them.
Yeah, that's, you know, all the way to the end, when I left, I was like, anybody heard from Al, anybody? No. Shame, but
You should pray for him because, I mean, he would be the 100th sheep, perhaps, if he is truly a child of the Most High. I mean,
You know, there's a,
he can gather them out, even if they're.
I know an awful lot of women, mothers in particular, and the issue with mothers as they put their children first. They put their children before Yeshua, they put their children before their husbands, and they just literally put them first. And I see it all the time. And they don't understand. I mean, you try to have a conversation with them and they do not understand that, first of all, Yeshua's first.
How many times?
He is first. I
how many
don't care.
times Stephen told me you went hungry and starving because you were at church.
Yeah.
Good on you, Sandy.
He really looks like he was starving. I mean, to be honest with you, though, there was a time when it literally, I remember fighting them every Sunday. They would never have their shoes. They could never find their shoes. I have no idea what they did with them. They would. And he's right. It did work because I finally looked at them and said, I'm going, goodbye. And I would leave them. I got tired of fighting them, trying to find their shoes, and I left. You know what? We had their shoes every week after that. I don't know why. But they didn't like the fact that I just walked out on them.
No food. When you left, and scolded the mess out of them.
Really? Good for him. I did not know that.
Yes. It's not cold in here, man. When you do that to your mother, you know where your shoes are. You better not do it again next week. Good thing that. I was scared of my.
But I
Yes, they
think
come
you're
in
right
handy.
about that, Sandy, and that, I'm guilty of that to some degree as far as children go. We can elevate them to a position of attention or authority beyond what they have been given according to the authority of the Most High and
Right.
the Torah. So that, and the thing is that our culture around us, one of the aspects of it is that the culture puts in us a fear sometimes that if we don't elevate the children, or if we don't take care of them in a certain way, elevate them, and listen to them, even as an authority, then they could turn on us or something, or they could go to the state and all these other types of things.
Yeah, the support definitely is not there for.
So the authority structure is messed up, and it puts fear and takes the fatherly and sometimes the motherly role out of sorts,
I think
It's just
some of it
difficult.
though, I think some of it is because when the children are babies, you don't have a lot of choice. You have a lot of time that you have to spend with those babies. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that women see that as a temporary, they never get beyond it.
Yes, they feel like that's a responsibility, and they're almost, they put that as if they're not obeying God, if they don't do their, do all the things that are necessary for the children. And it becomes like, it ends up becoming that being their idol. That they're saying if they're not accepted by God unless they do this.
Probably from not having enough children. Don't you have like 10 or 11?
Yeah,
Right.
you're numb. You're numb to it all.
All right, you're fine. All right, get Bob, Father, help me, my children are all alone.
Sometimes it's proud parents, giving their children a choice to be male or female. And I mean, God is really, working on America. I mean, you got a president, even Nancy Pelosi got kicked out of her church or her Catholic church because of what she believes. And, this.
Sure, I figured out of the country.
Yeah.
But I saw a guy talking about that, yesterday online, and he was like, when the long and short of it is, the guy asked him, he says, well, sir, how many genders are there? He goes, well, I'll tell you this, you got all these choices today, and you could be this, you could be that, but the long and short of it is, 100 years from now, when archaeologists dig up your body, you're either gonna be male or female. That's it.
He said that
You're-
on camera.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
wow.
gonna be male or female. That's, you got two options.
Oh, my goodness.
Woo. Not according to everybody else today.
Share with me knowledge of the results and the yes, which is more like a reporting and the facts. But it was eye-opening that they all also tell me, really need to, which I haven't done yet. And they said Jonathan Kahn has a message on it, but it's an ancient demon. That's being, and they're lying to me. My daughter says, oh, the doctor assigned me for. I said, no, they just write down on the.
Who said that?
paper, my daughter. She was advertising for a queer roommate. And, my wife said, in the positive, my wife said, well, we're going to a wedding this month. Her niece had a girlfriend, was gay, but now she's getting married. She's out of it. But she said, we have to pray. The family agreed to pray for her, that the relationships won't work out. That these weird,
Well, they say that that gay people have go over, like, they have up to 200, relationships.
Yeah.
I saw that years ago.
but I want to see this video.
I was walking down Seattle,
Specific demon.
yeah,
That
that's it,
Our tax dollars at work
yeah.
in the public schools as young as kindergarten. I couldn't believe they showed a trans dancing for
Yeah, they're letting
the kids climb on.
kids now are going to, drag shows or drag, what do they call
Well,
it?
you know, I'm very blessed and I don't to have to do that, because I probably be in jail.
But you know what? It's gonna affect.
I'd be in
everybody.
jail.
People are, what I tell people now.
Well, what you
I
need
told my
is to
daughter,
make sure your
"Oh,
wife
I've got
agrees with you.
oh, I
Don't
have a
ever send them to public
Right.
school.
Yeah, I know.
Home
some-
school.
my little sister hangs around gay and lesbian. I mean, she doesn't like me because I don't agree with the situation. My brother literally prayed for me for tomorrow because I'm going to my mom's and to visit her, because I can't, stay with my mom. And I have to keep my bags and so forth. And, my brother literally, when I was there last, he pointed in my face, and said, if you talk about God or talk about Israel, I will kick you out of my house. And so this is what I am dealing with my family. And so, it's really a hard situation that I'm living. And so.
I think I prayed about it and I found out about it and my daughter called me. Now, we didn't talk about that, but I'm just trying.
How old is she?
Like 27. And she's very smart and great. And you would believe me if I showed you a picture of her. But she cut her hair and colored it. And she didn't tell me, but my wife found on Facebook. She was advertising for the queer roommate. She had changed her name. This is a lot like cult leaders. Because they try to they manipulate them. So you don't feel good about yourself. Or can you imagine a kid going through puberty? Do you feel that you weren't born right? That you could change your gender. So they start by cross-dressing and you should wind up.
Some of those kids, though, they literally change their gender and then they regret it. It's too late, you've done it.
There's
Yeah.
videos of people that are, they're trying to talk people out of, making that decision to, mutilate their bodies to be
That's,
the opposite
yeah.
sex. And so, yeah, I mean, I had actually years ago, I picked up hitchhikers in Israel, Jews. And, I only pick up people in my moshav, in my village, and take them into, because there's a lot of, people. I pick up, if they have a kippah on, I'll definitely pick them up. But anyways,
That's racist.
It's religious.
Right. Sorry, religion, sorry.
but it's just, I remember one time I was walking down through the streets of Seattle, and I guess there was a gay parade, and, somebody thought I was like a spectator, and I was like, pointed at, and I said, how did you get here? And that's, that's all I said. How did you get here? It was a man and a woman. It wasn't, Joe and Blow or, I mean. Yeah, Joe and Bob and Sue and Becky, I mean, it's just crazy. What these, it's just like delusional, these people.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It's
but
wise.
it's
It's true, like you said.
that is the cult.
Let's look at, Jesus calls Philip and Nathaniel, because there's a little piece in there that I want to talk about a minute before we close out. John, somebody want to read that?
The following day, Yeshua would go forth into Galilee and findeth Philip, and saith unto him, Follow me. Now Philip was of Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip findeth Nathanael and saith unto him, We have found him whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, Yeshua of Nazareth, son of Joseph. Nathanael said to him, Can any good thing come out of Nazareth? Philip says, Come and see. Yeshua saw Nathanael coming to him and said unto him, Behold, an Israelite indeed, who is no guile. Nathanael said to him, How do you know me? Yeshua answered and said unto him, Behold, see, go, before that Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you. Nathanael answered and said, Rabbi, you are the Son of God, you are the King of Israel. Yeshua answered and said, Because I said to you that I saw you under the fig tree, you believe? You have seen greater things.
I was always bothered with Nathaniel. Because why, I mean, that's a terrible thing for him to say. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? Prejudice to the bone.
Really? Right.
So why did Yeshua come back and say, Behold, an Israelite indeed in whom is no guile? After the guy just said that.
No, but isn't
Bad word.
guile is like subtlety. It's like, oh, Nazareth, my favorite. He wasn't like that. Nazareth.
That's the bad part of that.
It's just more like being very blunt, actually, I think of. When if someone doesn't have any guile, it's very blunt about what. Yeah.
And that's, I agree with you. We still don't know on what they mean, pretty much.
Well, but you actually use the last part a lot, because I don't think God wants us to just believe. I think Yeshua is kind of disappointed that he believed already. He's like,
Right.
Exactly.
As I just told you.
It was so simply changed.
Easily swayed.
Yeah, he had just,
I could have been lying.
he had just put down the whole area of Nazareth, right?
Yeah.
And so quickly he changed.
But was it because Yeshua spoke that over him? I mean, was he a man of guile? And then Yeshua said, look at this, there's no guile in him.
No, but I think there wasn't guile in it. That probably was why he believed, because he probably knew himself.
Okay.
And Yeshua saw it quickly. But still,
That's funny, it's funny.
but maybe Yeshua overheard the comment. It's part of why he said.
It's probably cracked a smile at least.
Maybe something with the fig tree has something to do with it as well.
Well, I heard it must be that, what it was, there was a lot of crowd, and so this guy was very curious about Yeshua, so he had to climb the tree, and then, he's saying, I saw you
But
before all of it
Zechariah.
happened. Yes, yeah. Oh, okay. He's saying, I saw you before it happened, and he's like, how did you know this about? A prophet or?
Fig leaves are what Adam and Eve used to cover, and the word subtle is used in quite a few times. So like naked and subtle is the same word in Hebrew or Rome, same root. And it's used in Genesis. So I wonder if Nathaniel just doesn't try to hide his nakedness, and he's like, I hate Nazareth, I'm just gonna let people know that. I'm not trying to dress things up. I wonder if the fig tree.
But
might be
look
related.
what he does. Think about it. He doesn't like Nazareth, but he's willing to check it out anyway.
But what,
Yeah.
what would be the reputation of Nazareth? I mean,
Not a very good one.
Probably not.
There's actually an accent, probably like New Jersey, that goes.
Oh, yeah, I never talked.
You ever had an accent like that? Like a Jersey origin?
Hello.
Nazarene,
Wow.
Nazarene, but Nazarene,
Well,
maybe, I don't know, maybe that is
do
something.
you think also that, like, I was told that, like, maybe this wasn't even right at the beginning, was it? It was after a while of this ministry. So people have heard things about it.
Not much. He's
No.
just now picking his disciples. I mean, there was some maybe, but not a whole lot. I mean, just before this, he'd been, with, John the Baptist, so.
Oh.
This is before the wedding.
That was the first.
Wedding is chapter 2. We haven't got to the wedding. It's only chapter 2 then.
So this is before it's pretty miracle.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
before
that
his
was-
miracle. Yeah, it's his
Yeah,
first miracle, first recorded one.
Something happened under the fig tree that maybe it would have given him something. Maybe some evidence or some inclination to believe, to follow.
I saw this in a movie. Not sure.
Oh.
In the movie, Yeshua is walking to Philip praying, communicating. The Father. So he knew he was fellowship with the Lord. He didn't know it was so when Yeshua said, "You know, fall the tree," he recognized instead of home. That was the understanding.
Oh, that's cool.
Maybe like the same
It
voice.
was a nice time. And I think it's true.
And look at verse 45, Philip findeth Nathanael and said to him, we found him, of whom Moses and the law and the prophets did write, Yeshua of Nazareth, son of David. So he kind of witnessed to him before even Yeshua came. And probably it was known about that prophecy. That had him.
I just, to me, it sort of sounded like, that, Nathaniel was anti-Nazareth, but he was willing to check it out anyway. In other words, there's this, person over there that I don't want to talk to, but I'm gonna go talk to them anyway. Yeah, to me, it's sort of like we really gotta watch, watch ourselves, because we judge people. We do it automatically by the way they look, by the way they talk.
Yeah, like if they have a redneck accent or something like that.
Yeah.
There was
Really black, she goes, "No, he's white." I mean, when she was saying it out loud and looked at, oh, he's white. And I was like,
You guys know the west side, someone says, hey, I want to introduce you to someone from the bottom. Nothing wrong with that.
Hold on.
The minute you say that, I'm just like, I didn't. Oh, I had friends there, but I went there and. Yes.
Yeah, they don't
know. And when my wife says, oh, I just got a new job in Columbus, I'm like, where? The truth, she didn't know anything. She started looking for apartments in New York. And then she says, I got a new job with the state. Oh, great, what, downtown? No, the hilltop. I'm like,
Hold on.
I lived on the hill.
Somebody.
I lived on the. Oh my gosh. The teacher in Amish. She tells me about the mirrors and stuff. Cause they only have them in the only used 15 years. It was bad. It's everywhere, but I said, honey, it's we are
How often?
we
do
are
you heard in Columbus?
desensitized when you live in the big cities, you know.
Is it like, how often do we murder in Columbus?
It's down quite a bit this year.
Every day. You don't turn over leaves?
Good.
Yeah, that's,
I'm from,
no, it's every.
I'm from Cleveland, so, you know.
Oh, you're all back.
Leviathan.
I could.
That's right.
I could do African American. My brother goes, I wanna meet you near the playhouse. So I had a friend who lives in New Albany, African American. And he lives in the Navy and lives in Boston. And I took him with me. We can start with him, a bunch of things, you know. There's no place. Not the near east side. Not the near east side. My wife says where I lived in Cleveland in 270 was the hood. I'm like, no, let's go to Cleveland right now, 185th and Euclid. She doesn't know. But now that I live in, that's. We're getting there. But that, maybe that's, maybe just in that day, Nazareth had a reputation.
I'm sure they had a reputation.
There is,
I don't know.
I don't know
Well,
where,
it's just like Jonah and,
I think somewhere also in the gospel, the rabbi said something about Nazareth too.
I was gonna say even Bethlehem is considered downhill. Right? So Bethlehem has a downhill and Yeshua comes from a downhill. I went through this with my son, and he rough college, high school experience, he developed for college basketball and OSU Lima, which was probably downhill basketball. And he finally, when he figured that out, he goes, Dad, you're terrible. Like, I said, and the first thing I said to him, I said, you know, it's like a dunghill. He said, oh, what? I said, well, you sure came from a dunghill in Bethlehem, so if you want to burn through and kind of place in basketball, so okay, okay, I can do it.
can you get us thing?
Yes, you tell me, okay, wait, no, okay.
so
Yeah.
I get it.
So it does show how we prejudges humans, right?
You do, right, and the thing is, we
I
got
do the opposite too. Oh, he's true.
Well, and
Remember Kennedy?
at the same token, where she lives, you have to be. You must profile someone. Cause it's a matter of life and death.
Oh,
Arab, Jew, safe, unsafe, that is he carrying, where's the soldier? Where,
At the airport, they profile,
everyone.
they don't even look at your bag. And believe it or not, the cruise that I just came from, you know who were the ones that when we get off the boat to go visit those spots? They were Jews. Yeah, they were Israelis
Doing the security.
doing the security, you know? And so, you know, they teach they teach the police and the army and, you know, and so forth. And so, it was amazing, you know, I saw their name tags and all of them were Jews. Checking us in and they just look right in your eye, you know, and I was like, Bonnie Smile, oh, you know. Oh, I ran into Amir Sardi.
Keep highlighting.
I saw him a couple days ago at the airport. You know him?
No, nobody knows.
He's,
Nobody here. Go ahead.
oh, I guess, he's like a journalist and he is really, popular. He lives in the north of Israel and he speaks in churches and, so forth. And, he, you know, knows a lot, like about, you know, the wars of, you know, and he's watching a lot. He's very, popular amongst, you know, Christians that are interested and know about Israel.
Christian specifically, and it's televised.
Yeah, is it Amir Safardi?
He doesn't go in a synagogue, he goes into Christian congregation.
He's a believer in Yeshua. And so, he speaks, you know, perfect English, but he, of course, born and raised in. And so, yeah, I saw him and I walked up to him and I said, hey, I'm Manishma, and kind of looked at me kind of strange because, you know, who was it? I had heard somebody, oh yeah, I was in a wheelchair myself and one of those carts that they roll you around. And he, guy saw me on the Star of David and he said, oh yeah, I like Jews, but don't touch them. You don't touch Jews. Yeah, and yeah, but anyways, but it was, yeah, you can look him up on, he's got hundreds of videos and he teaches about mainly, the things that are happening under, he knows a lot about the Mossad and what's going on.
That would be interesting. So,
Yeah,
what was his name?
Amir Safari.
But anyway, she said that because of terrorism, you never just like walk in a door without announcing yourself or if somebody could walk in the window.
Yeah,
Or she said, but when there was school children out, you don't come near the children.
No, everyone was having, they always have a guard.
They always
Yeah.
protective of the children. And that once they knew who she was, she's American, and
Yeah.
they relax,
Yeah.
But in the beginning, they're very, very careful and skeptical.
yeah, he was very, kind of standoffish when I addressed him. And then I said, I was, in the, Israelis, and he got, Benjamin, and he was like, oh, cool, and then he relaxed and I could see, and then, we had a nice conversation, because I listen to him once in a while. Cause he does speak about, he does know a little bit of undercover. He must have some friends in the Mossad, and so,
Some of that's security and that's what transition happened. We went to my son's rivalry basketball game, two HBCUs, right? And me and my mom were sitting in the front row of this court. The only white people in the whole crowd. So of course, you just watch security get closer and closer to us. My head was shaking, right? So
It's the premises.
I know.
right, and they're getting closer, and finally someone comes up when the security gets around us. But, hey, how you doing? And I don't know. I'm here watching my son. What's your son? That's it. I'm like,
The star player.
right, she goes, oh, and then everything started dispersing. They were just being careful. I don't blame you.
You've got to be, like, you gotta be diligent. You gotta know your audience. Know what's going on around.
Good that you were like sweating and trembling or something like that. With a trench coat.
I'm gonna yell it. We're gonna, either blow yourself up or you flashers.
All right, guys, we're gonna close out. David, you want to close this out?
Thank you, Lord, for this day. Thank you for the fellowship and the passages that we went over and read. I pray for everybody in the congregation. I pray for Stephen. I pray that you give him the strength and understanding and ability to go forth with the proper guidance and let him give you all that weight and pressure that's on his shoulder. Pray for Trina and her place that she's at, and her mother, Marcia. I pray that she gets to go up to that home miracle, and Yeshua's name. Amen.
All right. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and be gracious unto you. Shalom.
Straight online, you can sing.
That's yeah.
She is not online, and I couldn't even try to sing with my throat today, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir,
Think
yes.
about it.
Hello.
I'm waving at her. And she's waving.
Yeah.
I can't say enough.
see him waving and I can't even see him.
Yeah, it's kind of loud, so.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. It was a great lesson.
It was good. Not really. Yeah, but we skipped a whole bunch of stuff. But that's okay. We were led by the Lord.
All right.
All right, we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Or, is it the phone?
I'm gonna let you get it.
Yeah, they.
If I don't want to mess up the recording.
It's the day,